Hey there, friendlies. How's up? Welcome to the 20th of November episode of the Beer Blades and Bushcraft live stream. I am home from Vegas. Hold on a sec. I lost my YouTube window, so I don't even know if you guys can see me. In fact, I'm not even sure why I opted for StreamYard tonight, but I did. Whatever. If someone wants to get in on the conversation and you're not a great big jerk, I'm going to let you in. Okay, up to 6 people. It's fine with me. Hey, Winders, how's it going? How are you, mister? I was just down in the United States for, 5 days, I think it was. And it was an interesting time. Some great stuff, some not so great stuff, but no major problems. Salut, Simon, comment va? But yeah, I'm glad to be home. You know, being away from my girls for like almost a week. No way, you know. Why am I doing this in Windows? Oh yeah, because under Mac OS I still can't use Ethernet. Right, of course. You guys might notice that I called this the BB&B live stream instead of the Beer Blades and Bushcraft live stream because I'm not sure really what YouTube thinks about words like beer and blades anymore. And you know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying. So how many people are we? Looks like there's 5 of us on. So who's on? Who's here aside from Winders and Simon? What's going on, guys? Who's got beer? Hey, Serge is here. How's it going? I haven't spoken to you in a long time, Serge. Feels like a month. The really naughty word is bushcraft, Martin. You may be onto something there. Wouldn't that be awkward? What would I call myself? Rain Dance Outdoors? Rain Dance Woodcraft? I don't think I could really get away with Rain Dance Outdoors because not everything I do is outdoors. Check where I am right now, for instance. But yeah, I don't know. What would I call myself if I couldn't use the word bushcraft? I don't know. Rain Dance Woodcraft. But yeah, I don't know. I got me some drink tonight. I got 2 things tonight. I have a local Quebec brewer because, you know. Yeah, Martin, I think I know why she giggles. I know where this is going. I get it. And for afters, I went real sort of pedestrian with the scotch tonight, but it's a Bowmore 12. I actually like the 12. I used to drink. What's the next one up? 15. There's a 17 or an 18 or something and a 15. I found that the 12 is the peak of price performance in terms of, you know, scotch flavor and not going too high octane, so it's still a friendly drink. I thought I heard someone on the stairs. Why Rain Dance? I get that sometimes. There's a couple of reasons for it, and they sort of came together in one beautiful package. I went to school to learn how to make movies, and for the longest time, I don't know anymore because I'm way out of that world, but actually to tangentialize, no, I'll tangentialize later. I'm going to answer that question. The Sundance Film Festival is where I was. Hi, Squirt.
Hello. You like my drawing?
Oh, look at that. We had a competition right before I came down here to see who could do the best Christmas decorated house. Oh, you win, man.
Welcome in Christmas Town.
Look at that. You got...
Look.
Hold on.
It's a Welcome in Christmas Town.
Welcome in Christmas Town. And she's sporting a vest that the wife and I bought her while we were at the Grand Canyon this past week. Yeah. Yesterday, in fact.
I'm cold.
Yeah, well, you're in the coldest part of the house. Go upstairs and help Tetsu Mud make the big bed.
Oh, she's sleeping.
Wake her up. Wake her ass up and say, Tatsy mode, let's open up the big bed.
Okay.
Let me get back to my live stream.
Yeah. No, it's
Are those hats on the windows?
What? Yeah.
Oh, do I keep this? All right.
Santa's hat.
All right, thanks.
Bye
I'll
bye.
speak to you later. Where the hell was I? I was answering the Ace T7s here. Hey, man, it's been a long time. Austin's Corner, how's it going? For those of you who are just coming in, I was rudely interrupted by that beautiful little girl of mine while I was answering Martin's question of... While I was answering Martin's question of why I named myself Rain Dance. Went to school to make movies. I specialized in writing and in screenwriting, but I also did a lot of cinematography and editing. Now, the thing is, when I was in communications at Concordia, cutting and splicing meant using like a razor blade guillotine and Scotch tape. Okay, I mean, we were using film, 8mm film. We were using little Bolexes and Arriflexes and stuff. But I wanted to get a film into Sundance. I never went into film. I've done very little amounts of work in film, mostly actually on the acting side or as an extra. It's all forgettable crap. And when I was trying to name this channel, I got into, okay, Martin, here's where the tangent I was going to take kind of dovetails nicely with your question. I started this channel because having spent a lot of time and money learning to make movies and having a very real and deep love of the auteur film maker tradition, it was bugging me that I wasn't really using cameras or anything in my day-to-day life. I was working as a designer and then as a writer. And so I decided to do a YouTube channel. I explain a lot of this in my second episode ever. I don't tend to tell people to go back to stuff before 2018, but anyway. And so starting my YouTube channel was a way of scratching that itch. Now, I've had to essentially come at this as though I have never studied film because the skills... Look, whatever the word is, because I got off a plane like 3 or 4 hours ago. Shot placement, no, like shot design, placement of things in the shot and everything. That's portable, but filming on a DSLR, right, instead of one of those little film cameras, editing digitally, I didn't learn any of that. I've had to teach myself all that stuff. Composition. Thank you, Martin. And so I have this long-standing dream of like building myself a log cabin with a large wraparound porch and sitting there on a misty, rainy day, drinking a cup of tea next to a fire and just watching the rain come down on the boreal forest around me. And so it just sort of came together like Rain Dance. It's not Sundance, the film festival, but it's Rain Dance. And I just really like the way the word sounded. I just put rain and dance together and it just sounded kind of cool to me. The bushcraft part might not have been the best choice. Maybe I should have gone for woodcraft or something. I'm not one of these guys who hates the word bushcraft. I realize that it's almost as though Ray Mears owns the term, but like bushcraft almost has a little silent TM at the end, and I get that. It's a heavily marketed term, but it's the term that I discovered when I decided to go one step beyond car camping. It's the term I discovered through Ray Mears, who I still to this day rewatch and rewatch. Martin, how you rewatch Water Walker. By the way, now that I've rediscovered Water Walker, it's going to go right into the mix. But I rewatch like Ray Mears' Northern Wilderness, that canoe episode he takes, where he and Ray, no, where he and Oh, bloody sin! What's his name? The other big name canoeist. Oh well, but like I rewatch all the time. That's he's the guy who introduced me to this baby right here, right? And he's the reason I'm pretty sure that the Small Forest Axe is so bloody popular and hard to keep in stock. It's what I call the Ray Mears effect. Like anything that ends up on one of his episodes seems to see a little bump in sales, but because before he designed his own grants for his axe, this was such a sorry guys, it's just the nail I keep this on popped out of the wall, so I'm doing a little on the fly maintenance. Ray Goodwin, thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Man, Martin's got my back tonight. Anyways, that's why I went for bushcraft, and maybe it should have been outdoors, or maybe it should have been woodcraft, because I don't know if Rain Dance bushcraft really rolls as well as say Rain Dance outdoors would have. But I see no reason to change the name. I love that. So yeah. Oh wait, Grand Canyon. Your wife and you hiked in and camped at the bottom years ago. That is definitely on the bucket list. Let me tell you. Ace 27. You remember the Flintstones cartoon episode where Fred was with Wilma at a small creek and him saying, "You hear that's going to be big someday." Really, man, that's hilarious. Yeah. We did 3 non-Vegas things. Simo says we're still getting a lot of lag. Who else is getting lag? Yeah, Martin, okay. Definitely going to go back for longer because we got there at like 4 p.m. So we were already losing light. It was raining. I asked someone on the way there, I said, "So does it rain in Arizona a lot, or are we just lucky?" And the guy said, "Dude, this is the first day of rain we've had since August." Like, okay. But so Simo, these guys aren't having a lot of lag. So what do you think? Is there something on your end that could be making it happen? Austin's Corner. Got distracted. Okay. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to take Camille back. Well, the wife and I are going to take Camille back. We're going to camp there. Martin, we didn't get to do like the Grand Canyon hike or anything because we just didn't have the time. But it's something definitely worth going back for. Because, I shot a video of it, so I don't really want to talk too much about it, but I was concentrating on the camera and saying, "Hi, we're here," and I was walking towards it. And I didn't really, I was following the misses, and I just sort of saw the misses in my peripheral, so I didn't really know where I was going. And I'm talking to the camera, and then I just sort of glanced past the camera, and there was the canyon, and I just about died, because I've never seen anything like that. So I'm hoping to get a video together soon. But yeah, if you say it's a real tough hike, I'll make sure I'm in shape for it. Because one thing that this trip has taught me is that I am not in shape. I get winded way faster than I ever used to, and I gotta fix that.
Pretend I'm not there.
Okay.
I'm invisible.
Are you kidding? I haven't seen you in 5 days. I'm not gonna pretend you're not there. I want a hug.
I'm invisible.
Oh, you're not invisible. Get over here. One hug, and then go back upstairs.
I just had to put paper on my desk.
Okay. All right. Go to the big bed.
Okay.
Ow. Tenenbaum's here. Yes. Ace 27. The workbench is essentially finished. I have now gotten to the point where all I have to do is sand it and oil it. Because as I think you guys know, Sam's just heard this whole story and he's seen the damn bench. This is old news for him. I flattened the top using I tried to flatten the top with planing, but I'm just not good enough, so I was just ripping stuff out and just forget about it. So what my buddy Robin and I did was we built a router sled. Like we put two, like on the skirts, we put two pieces of some synthetics, like it's dead straight, like MDF or something, right? Put them on, built a router sled, and went across. Okay, and the vast majority of it, perfect. But at some point, right at the end, the depth stop started to go on the router. It started to slip, and so it just made an utter mess of the very end, like the very right hand side if you're standing, both tops. So what I had to do was, well, I bought a new router, which, by the way, is still slipping a bit. So there's something up here. And I routed out a large shelf, laminated two pieces of walnut, like two real slim milled pieces of walnut together, sank those onto the shelf, glued it up. And then with my new router, I put on one of those flush cut bits. So it's fabulous. So now I just got to sand the top. I've even drilled all my holes. Sand the top. I guess boil linseed oil it and call it a day. And then start building stuff. Guys, when this thing is like finished, we're not even talking about a day of work. When this thing is finished, I don't know if I'm going to be crying or laughing or what, but it's just going to feel like a huge weight is off my shoulders, Yeah, I don't know. It's like the new router slips just a little bit as well. It's got like, you set it and then you close a latch. It should be good to go, but I don't know. What else? By the way, I'm not entirely sure why I'm using StreamYard for this, because I'm not running one of my interviews tonight or anything, but, whatevs, right? Private chat, no one? Okay, I'm good. Comments, am I caught up? Let me just check. I don't think my cuts were too big. I had thought that too. I had thought that as well. And I have, in fact, made errors by going too big before. But, meh. Oh, Serge, the garage, please don't remind me. I don't want to talk about it. But, Anyways, man, I'm glad to be home. It's so good being home. Tell you what. I'll send a sticker to the first person who tell me which character I just completely butchered the quoting. But yeah, this time what I did was I tried real hard to take a real light touch. AC7, a real light touch. So there's 10 of us on right now. So who wants to talk beer? Everyone who's got something that they're drinking, beer, alcoholic, otherwise, let me know. Here's what I'm having tonight. It's by Oshlag. It's a double, I don't know how to pronounce that. Is that goes or goza? But it's mate. So I don't know. That's going to be weird, right? It's apparence is trouble. What? Non-filtered. Nice. Barley and wheat. The hops in it, man, there's a lot of hop in this. I don't know, but the IBU is only 12. Glacier, L'Oreal, Mosaic, Simcoe, and Sabro. The levure, the yeast is Lactobacillus plantarum roche. I don't know what the hell that means. And it's got a green mate in it and sea salt. And I saw the sea salt and I thought, I like me some salt. So, I don't know. Let's taste this. Who else has beverages tonight, guys? I want to know all about them. If Mike Morton was here, he'd be drinking something crazy interesting, that's for sure. He's about the Ontario microbrews the way I am about the Quebec microbrews. Ooh, that is a blonde, man. That's light. That's not just blonde. That's like icy blonde. That's bottle blonde. That's like Pamela Anderson before she got old and scraggly blonde. Wasn't a very nice thing to say, was it? Look at that head. Jeez, man, I just keep blowing the job. I'll just let it settle down a bit. Why are you still down here?
Pardon me, but your liquids with death sign and fire sign are not supposed to be in your paper.
They're fine.
Goodbye.
You guys hear that? I'm getting crapped on by my daughter.
Invisible.
Hey! Dennis is here. How's it going? Dennis, I'm glad to hear from you. This week live streaming from Nevada, forget about it. First of all, by the time we got back from the Grand Canyon, it was way late. And there was like a 2-hour difference. It was just, and I was having trouble getting the hotel to recognize my devices. Anyways, so put it off by a day, which means that I can actually, I'll go back and rewatch Dennis's, and then we're not clashing for once. Dennis, for the record, I had a conversation with a bunch of the usuals over Signal, because I had thought of maybe moving my day, but it doesn't work for most of them. So I'm kind of stuck, which is too bad, because actually, since there's a couple of you here, I want to talk about my upcoming panel discussion series. And hey, Tyler, by the way, for those of you who want to get in on this conversation at any point, I sort of went on to StreamYard just as a, I don't know, reflex or something tonight. I wasn't planning to do it, but here I am. What I wanted to, what the hell was I was about to say something, for land's sakes. Oh yeah, for my upcoming panel discussion series, I had 2 people lined up for a winter camping one, which was going to be later this month, because I had told everyone who was involved that I would be starting it when I got back from Vegas, just because it made more sense to me to package it that way. But then, Dennis, I think the one that you did yesterday was winter camping, right? So maybe I'll shift that one and do, I have a couple of other episodes planned, but one of them I want you and Martin to be on, and that's going to be awkward because you and I live stream on the same day. So, I mean, I'll talk to you about this more offline, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll shift that night as well. But you know what? First, let's taste this Goza. Now, as far as I know, Gozas are a little sour, which I'm prepared for. I've only ever had one other Goza, though. Goza? Goes? I don't know how the hell you pronounce that. Let's give it a... Ooh. Oh, I get the salt. That salt is good. The sour is good. Something's not working at the back, though. It's not bad. It's just there's something happening. There are 2 flavors there somewhere in that mix that don't quite mesh. But aside from that, it's generally pretty good. It's generally pretty good. So goes with the Gozerian. You know what's funny? Because I've got the YouTubes open just to make sure that I don't, like, as soon as Simone said lag, I popped open the YouTubes. I had popped it up and closed it and popped it up and closed it. I keep closing it by accident. But the comments are appearing faster on YouTube than they are in StreamYard, which is weird, right? Tyler, yes, I do. I think I changed that my Morris Pod video title, and I changed some of the tags around as well. I only got off the plane at like 5:30 tonight, so I haven't had time to check up on it. Dennis, are you experiencing lag? Simon's having a lag issue, but he doesn't seem to be. Hey, Serge. Just an escape. I bet that Chrome have the same issue. That's lag going both ways. That's what she said. Oh, Dennis will be right back. Okay. Tasty. No lag on Safari. Okay. Well, that's good to know. With the messages on StreamYard, and oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's weird because whatevs. Anyways, you know what I'll do? I will drag YouTube behind the StreamYard window so that I'm not distracted. Because what I'm doing is like bouncing back and forth. So hey, anyone else drinking alcohol tonight? Martin, because I thought you might be around. I'm doing scotch for later, because I know that you are an appreciator of the whiskeys. And I didn't want to do one of my expensive ones, so Bowmore 12. It's one of my standbys. And of course, for after that, tea, because tea is a good drink. Simone, I think Dennis is using Windows, if I'm not completely mistaken. Tyler said me. What was that too? What did I ask, Tyler? You are drinking something. What are you having? What you got, Mr. Tyler? I'm pretty sure Dennis has something cool going into a glass over there. I'm pretty sure of it. Yeah, Tyler, I'll be interested to take a look at that Morris Pot video and see if that's helped. All right, Martin's gone for tea. Whoa, tea? What? Tyler's having an IPA. So a lot of people do love the IPA. I'm not one of them, but a lot of good friends love it. So I had one IPA that I really liked. It's by Microbrew in British Columbia, in the Okanagan. Just want to make sure I'm not missing out on the conversation. Sales, I guess you're not drinking anything because you were probably up early tomorrow. Simo, are you having the St. Lawrence Flat again? There's like a lot of stuff going on upstairs. I can well understand that, Mr. Tenenbaum. I can well understand that. Because it's late for you. You're drinking IEP packets and memory dumps with a little water. Okay. Okay. I feel that would taste odd. I feel that would taste odd. Simone, don't tell Tenenbaum to go get some sleep. I want him chatting and adding into the conversation like usual. He brings some good stuff to the convo, man. Just ignore Simone. Actually, if you're too tired, definitely go get some sleep. I won't hold it against you. I will not hold it against you. I'm a little tired myself, but not so bad because I slept on the plane, and technically it's 2 hours earlier for me right now, so I'm not you know, that every now and again I come on and I'm like, sorry, what? Oh no, Serge is sick. Congested. What you need is a hot toddy. Oh, Simone. I just tried to pop open a tab and did something weird because I'm using Windows right now. I'm looking up a hot toddy recipe for you there, Mr. Serge. The classic hot toddy. Hot water, whiskey, honey, and lemon. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I thought it was bourbon, but no, bourbon is whiskey. Here's the one on Epicurious. Oh, crap. How do I copy in Windows? Oh, there we go. I'll just use the mouse. I'll just use the damn mouse. Then I'll do that damn paste thing. There you go, Sash. That'll make it better. That'll make it all better. So, by the way, guys, while I was away, do you guys all know why I went away? Like what the hell I was doing in Las Vegas? Did that ever come up? I think I told some of you, but I'm not sure if it was like general knowledge. And by the way, have you guys seen that new axe by, what the hell is his name? What the hell is his name? Let me just let me look him up, because I know that I got him on the Instagrammage. He's a wood carver. I think he's either German or Austrian, but he's been in like here and in the States and Japan. He spends a lot of time in Japan. Damn it. He only posts anyways, he's got a new carving axe out that looks really good. I mean, I'm not about to throw like another $300 around at a carving axe, especially because, hey, I will tell you guys something for free, man. Las Vegas is expensive. I mean, not just, I think that if we had driven across the border and flown from Plattsburgh, our plane tickets would have been way less, but, you know, but holy crap. At a time when I'm on parental leave and on half my salary, that, woo! So I'm definitely not going to go throwing a lot more. Wildham Kite Woodcraft Vault. What the hell is his name? Can't find it. He doesn't. Hold on. Start with a W. There's Winders Ranger. Valdein Samkite Woodcraft. Okay. Leslie Andrew Wolf Walters Woodcraft. No, it's not him. Shite. Who is it then? What? Never mind. Forget I brought this up. Anyways, some dude who I can't remember the name of and couldn't put a link to has a new carving axe set, which I'm not going to buy, but which does look really good. Okay, where was I? Hey, Hike with Mike is here. How's it going, mister? How's it going? I'm just making sure. Dennis is back. How's it going? Saved my $300 for my canoe. My canoe. January is when I started saving up, man. I will be. It's going to be nice to have a goal to save for again. Because whenever I have a goal for something, I was just talking about this with the missus on the flight home tonight. No, I think we were in the taxi after the flight, actually. That I always find it much easier to do something like if, for instance, I have to lose weight or something. I always find it easier to do anything, save money, lose weight, go running, whatever. If I have a goal that I have to work towards. Like, I'm not so good at doing it if there's if there's no concrete goal to be striving for. Hey, Robin's here. How's it going? So it'll be nice to have something to save for, and dream about. Like when I saved up for 6 years, I think it was, for my fancy base, and then I ordered it, and it took like 8 or 9 months to build it and send it to me. I like that part. I like knowing that this, whatever this thing is coming, and feeling the I don't want to say excitement because it makes it sound like I'm a kid on Christmas, but like the anticipation. I like having that anticipation. But yeah. So yeah, it'll be nice to start saving up for that thing. Might get in Las Vegas next spring for work-related Congress. Well, if you do, hold on to your wallet and don't gamble, which I did not do. I did not play one table. The missus played a little bit just to say that, she was in Las Vegas, but, walked in with a 20 and walked in with two 20s and said, this is all I'm playing. Once it's gone, I'm out. And she did that. Honestly, Simone, Las Vegas it's a hellhole. You flew from Plattsburgh, went to San Francisco. I'm sure you saved a lot, Serge. I'm sure. Where did you park in Plattsburgh? Or did you take the bus down to Plattsburgh? Because I don't really want to take the bus to Plattsburgh. The border takes forever, Robin asked if I gave up the hustler's life. Man, I'm too old for the hustler's life. Although, speaking of hustling, we bagged a $300 gift card to the Bacchanal buffet at Caesar's Palace because the Caesar's properties, like a lot of the hotels are Caesar's properties, right? Like a lot. Harris, which is where we were, was a Caesar's property. Anyway, so this woman walked up to us. Hey, are you guys both couples? And we're, us and our friends were like, yeah, we're like couples. And let me get you some free buffets. Come on over here. We walked over and they started in on what was obviously going to be a pitch for a timeshare. So we'll give you free breakfast. You listen to a presentation about our newest hotel, and then you get $300 to spend at any Caesar's property, on food or whatever. So he said, okay. We listened to the 2-hour presentation. It was very slick. It sounded very attractive. When they got you to the end with, where the hard numbers are, your deposit was like $8,000 US. And it's the kind of thing where if you've got a lot of coin to blow and you travel every year, it actually makes a lot of sense. But it's not that you'll stay here free, because you buy your points, and then you've got monthly payments to sort of pay them down, kind of thing. So it's not a scam. It's just we sure as hell couldn't buy into it, We kind of knew that, though. We figured 2 hours of our time for a killer buffet for free. Yeah, let's do it. So, Rob, yes, we did pull a little hustle, but it was a very minor one. And it's kind of a hustle that they assume as their statistics. They give these presentations knowing that only a certain percentage. I think they're expecting 50-50. 50 will go for it, 50 won't. But yeah, you don't step into a timeshare without your eyes open, that's for sure. It's definitely not the kind of thing for us, because we wouldn't travel enough to make it not a scam, Hold on. 2 words for you, just coin jar. Yeah, that's true. Hi, Robin. He's not. Hey, no. Nah, totally a kid. At Christmas, we don't have enough moments like that. Yeah, that's so true, Serge. Hike says, no interest to go to Las Vegas or any other city for that matter. I will very likely. I don't ever want to go to Las Vegas again. Maybe fly into McCarran to take Camille to like Red Rock Canyon, or like the Valley of Fire, something like that. But the Las Vegas could sink into the earth, and I wouldn't miss it at this point. Sash, you had friends and family drive you to the Plattsburgh airport. Wow, that's good friends. You didn't play last time you were in Las Vegas, just felt weird. Yeah. Everything feels weird there, though. It's like the entire city is. Here's the thing: Las Vegas is designed like a huge shopping mall. Like you can't just cross the street to go there. It's completely the strip, the area where tourists get trapped, right? It's designed so that if you want to go over there, like in a shopping mall, you have to go past opportunities to spend your coin, shall we say. You know, like how a shopping mall is designed to keep you going past stores. You know, oh, maybe I'll check that out before you can get to the other escalator going down to the next floor and that kind of thing. Las Vegas is designed exactly like that. It's just killer. It's smart cookies, you know. Timeshare more like crime share. Like with Mike. Mike doesn't say too much, but when he does, it's a bullet, eh? And as usual, sales makes the most sense. Instead of a timeshare, I would rather have a plot of land, and I am exactly there with you, Holmes. Orlando's like Las Vegas, just one big tourist trap. I hate that place too. And you know, Niagara Falls on the Canadian side. I don't know if the American side is as developed, but man, that city's horrible. Absolutely horrible. So one thing I did want to discuss tonight was I sort of hit on it, and I want to get back to it. For my upcoming panel discussion series, how I'm planning to do it is 2 guests, maybe 3 on a special occasion, okay? Because Dennis is doing one-on-one interviews, if I remember correctly, so I don't want to do that format, just so that there's a little difference between us. So I'm going to do like 2, maybe 3 guests, closed, okay? Like no open invitation to the stream yard. I mean, obviously we'll play it, and you know, in the chat down the side, people can ask questions, and we'll answer questions and everything. And then for the second hour, I was thinking maybe open it up to everyone so that everyone who is interested can actually get into the conversation, and B, if the person who's being interviewed or one of the people on the panel can't stay, they can feel free to just pop out, you know, or both of them, you know, the people on the panel discussion can disappear if they want to, and we could still keep the chatter going. That's the format I'm thinking of. Okay. As I said, I'm going to be moving it off a little bit or rearranging when the episodes are, because what I was hoping for my first episode, Dennis did last night, so I'm going to move that off. But I don't know, how does that sound to everyone? Like an hour of watching a panel, asking questions or comments in the side chat, and then open up to 6 people. What I was going to do is make an actual video about this and have a poll, but really, not everyone who watches my stuff watches these live streams, so I figured I would just ask you guys directly. Tenenbaum likes Lac Lamy and Gatineau. I've never been there. Martin, you think that sounds like a good format? Okay, that's 1 vote for it. I'm just sort of reading up on the comments here. You know, it's funny because there was something I thought of while I was in Red Rock Canyon, and then I had the exact same thought on the way to the Grand Canyon yesterday. And it's interesting because it's something I've mentioned on a way earlier one of these live streams. How the hell, I was about to say how there's something else, would one bushcraft the desert like that? Like once you're in Arizona and you get closer to the Grand Canyon, it's not nearly as arid as it is further south, like around, you know, Hoover Dam, and then, you know, and in Nevada and all that. But in that really arid area, and like I was thinking of, you know, the Ray Mears series where it was all about like indigenous food, right? And he went to Australia with what was his name? Bugger me. Oh well, you know, they went to Australia and hung out with Aborigines and saw how they ate, and they ate those grubs out of the tuber shoots or something. Remember? Did any of you guys see that whole series they did on eating, on food? Anyways, so I was like, oh, how the hell would, because there's a whole sort of tradition happening there that he was tapped into for the episode. I would almost love to do to go down there and do an episode with, I don't know, the Hopi or the Navajo or Apache or something, and like up around the Grand Canyon area, right, where knowing where the water collects is key to survival. Man, that would be good. I mean, if I ever get, when the channel is bigger, provided I don't get canceled by YouTube for doing something silly or whatever is going on with YouTube these days. But hey, Wood Pigeon's here. How's it going? Bushcraft, what is that? We've already had that part of the conversation. Oh, wait. You've never been that far north in Quebec. Where? The Reservoir Gouin? I've never been there either. I'm getting the feeling that Tenenbaum appreciates a casino every now and again. Martin says he's done desert camping in the nearby Painted Desert. I've never been there, but yeah, desert camping is the hardest you've ever done. Martin. Yes, the witchetty grubs. Thank you. Yes, I'm not good with remembering everything. Hey, Outdoors here too. Nice. Martin, if you've done the desert camping, would you want to do a panel discussion about it at some point? I'm just sort of catching up. Witchetty grubs. Yes, that's it. What was the name of the guy he had on? I loved that guy. I was very sad to hear that he'd recently died, because even in that episode, he was obviously suffering from Parkinson's, right? The way he stammered when he spoke, and that whole thing. So I was very sad to hear that he died, because I really liked his sort of his way, Outdoor, by the way, I'm surprised to see you. Aren't you hunting or something? Wait, Tyler's hunting. Wait, hold on. Oh, the red is on. You had a huge buck in your driveway tonight. Did you take him down? Oh yeah, great. Outdoor arrives, and so Souch takes off. What's going on? Are you guys tag teaming the live stream? Is that what's happening here? What the hell was I just talking about? Whoa, Dennis, you're already putting up the Christmas tree? Whoo! My wife and your wife would get along great. I have put down my foot and said there ain't no Christmas tree going up until the 1st of December, no matter what, no matter who, no matter how. And I get my way on occasion. Yeah, Hike with Mike. Oh, you're waiting for bear season, right? Hike with Mike, I'm with you. Like, anytime I'm in a chunk of countryside that is as foreign to my experience as desert is, I'm enchanted. Absolutely enchanted by what I'm seeing. I had the same experience several years ago when I went to my dad's place in the Okanagan for the first time, because he lived in Vancouver forever, and I don't know, 14, 15 years ago, I went to visit him at his new place in Penticton, which is in the southern Okanagan, which is a pocket desert. I mean, it gets progressively more arid as you go from the top of the Okanagan down sort of the south. So by the time you get past Penticton down to where like Oliver and Osoyoos are, it's dry. But on the same trip, I had gone to my fiddler's place in Alberta, and he took me and the missus to Drumheller and sort of the Badlands. And I'd never seen a desert in my life before the Badlands. And it was absolutely enchanting. And like, And it got me wondering about, how things live here, how they find moisture, how they, and oh, by the way, I'm dumbfounded by the scenery. And then I went to see my dad for the first time. It's a very different desert. It's what they call a pocket desert. It's a small desert, but it's more sort of a scrubland desert than sand dunes. Maybe you call it semi-arid, but they get a couple of millimeters of rain in a day and they panic, right? Now that's also where I came across my first rattlesnake. Okay. Hold on. No hunting, right? You would love to go desert camping. Yes, Salutissimo. She is. I'm on YouTube. Fair point. Somebody in my street has their lights up already. Ah, no! Simone, rain dance, bushcraft normal. We need good folks to keep the discussion going, whatever it takes. Fair enough. Principally the absence of water. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta carry in water, right? Big jerry cans, I guess. But all the skills I've developed are good in temperate to boreal forest, right? If I'm sitting in scrubland, I don't really know what I would do. If I'm sitting in tundra, I have no idea what I would do. And by the way, I would love to sit in tundra at least once. Maybe like early fall or late spring or something rather than the depths of winter. But I would love to see that up front and in real life. Yeah, I think that having to really pay attention to what your water is going towards would really change the character of the weekend or the overnighter for me. Because obviously I'm not used to having to worry about that. New Mexico, land of enchantment. I've never been there. I would love to see it one day. Hike with Mike. Typo, so you deleted, yeah. Simone will be right back. The deserts I have visited, about half a dozen, really, have all been beautiful in their own austere ways. Oh yeah, that's the thing, like just because it's so different than the boreal or whatever, doesn't mean it's not spectacular. And unfortunately, when we were in Arizona, as I said earlier, it was like their first rain since August. So it was cloudy, okay? But I think that if I was standing on the rim of the Grand Canyon at midnight on a dry night, the stars would probably just have me in tears. I'm sure of it. I'm absolutely sure of it. The Grand Canyon National Park is a designated dark sky site, I think, if I remember correctly. That's an epic win as far as I'm concerned. Hi, Martin, you've been in about a half a dozen deserts? Where you been? I'm assuming you've been to like Alberta. You've obviously been down around the Grand Canyon. Where else have you been? Hike with Mike says that when he's swamp hiking, water is never a problem. That's for sure. Oh, Wood Pigeon had to go and plug in his phone. Okay. Outdoor Dauber. Yeah, the thing is, I have no problem with rugged and foreboding. I'm enchanted by areas I've never, kinds of landscape I've never seen before. I always just sort of want to sit there and look. Grand Canyon, by the way, I could be there for a month and still not get enough. And so the fact that we only had a couple of hours, and so I didn't have enough, goes without saying, Wood Pigeon's been to Mexico, okay. Oh, Pine Martin, they've all been in the American Southwest, really? Okay. Drumheller is interesting because Well, look, Drumheller is interesting because they've got the Badlands and the dinosaur bones, right? I mean, Painted Desert, yeah, that's in Arizona. Sonoran Desert, nice. Chihuahuan Desert, oh, it's southern Texas. Okay, oh yeah, Joshua Tree, California. Wood Pigeon, you were just in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. Nice. Where were you? Were you at like a resort? One of my uncles has a very small sort of hotel in Sayulita, which I think is kind of close to Puerto Vallarta. I think that clothing choice would probably be big for desert bushcrafting. Martin, you can back me up. Actually, no, Martin, I want to talk to you about this on one of our panel discussions. I'll Oaxaca, Mexico for Day of the Dead. Okay. Okay. Simo's back. Just checking out some stuff here. There's another desert bushcraft area I would love to check out. I can't. I don't think Hamza knows that I'm knows that I'm live streaming tonight, but I would love to have him on to talk about it. Yeah, I'll. Hiked up Mount Auburn and saw the Petrified Falls. Nice. Very nice. On my trip, I've got all these books that when my Patreon sort of gets started, because one of my perks is going to be a book club. We all read a book in a month, and then we get together to talk about it. So I decided to sort of get started on my reading for that. So I brought this with me, read it on the plane there, and read it on the plane back. And who are we kidding? I read it in the airport on the way there. I read it for part of the flight, and then I fell the hell asleep. On the way back, I read a little bit, I fell the hell asleep. I woke up, I read a little bit, I fell the hell asleep. But this book, it's funny because, Martin, I was thinking about you when I was reading this book at some part, because everything he says about tents and stuff and Pantasote and all that, it just kept reminding me of how far we've come since, what was this, 1906? When did he originally write this? And by the way, Mr. Kephart's section on his first aid kit makes him come off as a junkie. Copyright 1916. No, I thought he wrote. I thought he wrote this earlier than that. Hold on. Yeah, he wrote it in March 1906. We've come a long way since 1906 in terms of. Hold on. Yeah, I fell the hell asleep on that plane, man, because I got very little sleep. We were taking early morning flights both ways. So the night before we flew there, I almost didn't go to bed because why? Why was that? Was I gigging? No. I don't bloody remember, but I was up real late, and we were going to be getting up real early. Anyways, I just slept on the plane. And the same deal on the way back here. We spent all night, our last night, looking for a mailbox to send some postcards to Camille. She said she didn't care if they arrived while we were already here. Send her a postcard. So we sent her a bunch of postcards. Now, trying to find a post box or a post office or a mailbox in that town is impossible. All they've got is FedEx. And in some of the hotels, you could just drop your stuff with the concierge and they'd send it for you. But we were at the Harris, which is a terrible hotel. Which I feel is a terrible hotel. Just to not get a lawyer up my ass. And they wouldn't take our stuff and send it. So on our last night, we're like, we got to be up early. We got to be at the airport early. And we can't be looking for the post office in the airport. Which ended up being way more true than we thought. Holy crap. I'll tell you about it later. So we ended up, I found online, I looked up post office, mailbox Las Vegas. And it showed all the mailboxes in Las Vegas. And most of them are outside the Strip. And once if you're there and you're a tourist, you're trapped in the Strip, man. Good luck getting the hell out of there. But there was one between our hotel and across the street was was Caesar's Palace. And there was a mailbox right there. Now, you can't just cross the street. You have to go over there and go across and pass an In-N-Out burger and a food court that's open all night so that you can spend your money and blah, blah, blah. So we got across, and some cops were arresting some dude. And the cop walks up to us to say, "What are you guys looking for?" We said, "A mailbox." He said, "What?" Mailbox isn't there. So what we ended up doing was we walked into the Venetian and walked up to their concierge and said, "We need to send some postcards. Do you have a post box?" And he said, "Sure, just give them here." Didn't even ask for a room key or anything, which was great because we weren't staying there. But the fact is, by the time we handed off our postcards to a concierge at the Venetian, it was late. We then walked over to the crossover and blah, blah, and got back to our room and said, "We're not going for a drink. We're not drinking the bottle of wine we bought. We're going to bed." We got into our room, opened the door, walked in, boom, it hit 1 o'clock. By the time we finished packing up our stuff for the next morning, it was 2 o'clock. So yeah, you're damn straight I slept on the plane. Pine Martin. I've never read any Kephart. It's, here's the damn thing about Kephart. When I read Kephart, I hear, okay, has everyone here watched Dick Proennke's films? Before I answer this. Tenenbaum, hot chocolate is a good idea. It's a fabulous idea. Because the thing is, whenever I read Kephart, I always sort of hear that kind of old-timey voice, So like on chapter 5, utensils and food, a collapsible camp stove or other sheet iron affair may be convenient in a fixed camp if one has a darky to look after it. Someone like me whose partner is black, that first line was a bit of a piss off. When you shift camp every day or so, such a thing is an intolerable nuisance to clean up and pack around. Either it or its pipe is forever getting jammed out of whack. Besides, it compels you to cut all your cooking wood into short lengths. It's old-time writing. Makes you really work for it. It really does. I'm reading it out of a love for those who came before. I'm finding that most of the information is as dated as the writing style. My first interface with this small contrivance was as an audiobook, so I knew what I was getting into. But it's like, it's one of the classic pieces. It's one of the classic bits of bushcraft lore. I audiobooked some Nessmuk as well, But yeah, like if the reason I was thinking about you is because of that tent that we discussed that you have, and how pretty much all your stuff is like real modern and real lightweight and just makes sense, and when Kephart was writing this book and talking about Pantasote being the best damn thing and this and that, he was also talking about the pinnacle of the technology of his age. You know, and I've got to, by the way, stop saying you know. It's terrible. Oh, come on. And so it makes me wonder what 50 to 100 years from now will be the pinnacle of camping technology then. And like I sort of see a dismal little angle things are taking, that a lot of, like when you see Kickstarter camping gear now, it's all really techy. Like camp stoves with USB plugs on them. I'm not interested. I've got one of those and I don't use it. It's been in like 3 of my videos, and on 2 of those videos I've said I don't like this stove, and now it just sits in there. Which one is it? It's the who cares? But there's a real sort of tech angle to camping stuff now, you know, and hold on. Did anyone see the private message I just sent out? Oh, Simo's watched both of the Dick Prenicky videos. Yeah, I man, it's kind of like the same comfort food for me as the Ray Mears or whatever, except I've only watched the first full film because Outdoor. You sent it to me, right? It was you. Yes, the BioLite stove. Bloody hate it. It's like it's a lot of money in that thing, and I could get it to work properly if I threw the work in, I think. But the problem with it is, what's it for? It's a solution in search of a problem. Like, it's too big. Excuse me. Outdoor, don't start keeping track. I don't want you to lose your account. Like, it's too big for a dedicated, like, real hikers, right? Guys who are all about ultralight and all that. It's too big for them. If I'm car camping, why would I waste my time with that when I can just bring a Coleman stove or something? It's not a bushcrafty contraption. It's like the bushcraft version or the camping version of something really hipstery, you know? Does that make sense? And I can't figure out why. I don't even really know how to say what I'm trying to say. It's like a dilettante in a world of real axemen, you know? Like, it doesn't fit anywhere at all. Does anyone see the like, I'm trying to figure out how the private chat works in StreamYard. Is anyone seeing that? What I just put there? Hold on. 3 of the videos. BioLite, yes. In 100 years, we'll camp in our own beds, teleporting ourselves back and forth for everything. I don't want to. Hot chocolate mixed with black coffee is really good. That's a mocha. Wood pigeon. Hike with Mike, we call that a mocha. Tenenbaum likes that too. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it seems to me that the BioLite stove is heavier and bulkier than even a big set of power banks. And it's not even that good a power bank, right? it's like it's a good power bank if you plug it in first. Something that's kind of cool about it, I guess, is that it works sort of as it's not really a Stirling engine, but like the difference between the hot and cold creates power that sort of powers up that battery really, really, really slowly. Gadgety, one would need to be on a really long trip to need that. Yeah, exactly. Hey, Axe Junkies, how's it going, Craig? We're talking about a few things. I had said that I'm going to put off the first episode of my panel discussion series because of what Dennis at Canoe Hunt Adventures did yesterday. Because what he did yesterday was what I was planning for my first one. So maybe something that we talked about might happen fairly soon. Okay. Aside from that, we was talking about. I talked a little bit about my recent trip to Las Vegas, the one that I got home from earlier today, like this evening, and just stuff. I was talking about Horace Kephart a little bit, and how we've come a long way, and I'm wondering, 100 years from today, would they look at our equipment the same way I look at some of the stuff he's talking about in this book, hold on. Oh, Dennis is done moving furniture. Nice. Yeah, Dennis is already putting up the Christmas tree. Now, Dennis, do you have a Christmas tree like in your attic, or do you get a fresh one every year? Actually, everyone, do you guys have a Christmas tree stuck in your attic or your garage, or do you put up a real one every year? Yeah, but Simo, I don't know how to, in private chat, do I at somebody in order to do it? In order to make it work? Hey, Martin, what time are you getting to the WCS? Is that the Winter Camping Symposium? Bylight uses Seebeck effect. Yeah, but they're not completely different. They're not the same, but they're not completely different. You don't do Christmas. That is refreshing. Fake tree. Wildlife does not like spiders. Okay. Axe Junkies. Real tree bought from a local tree farm. Simo, no tree. Yeah, I saw. I think Mike Morton had a thing up on his Instagram asking who was going. So maybe actually I'll do my my winter camping episode the week, like when you guys get back. I'll ask you about that as well. Just so that it's fresh in everyone's minds. Because I think the two guys who I'm thinking of doing that one are both going. Note to self: read an email about that after the wild stream. The wild stream? What? The live stream. Bet you guys are finding it fascinating watching me write notes to myself. Sorry, it's just if I don't write it down, I will forget. I'm way too bushed, way too... I don't want to say I'm time lagged because I'm not, right? It's 2 hours earlier for me right now. Just bought a fake tree pre-lit wood pigeon. Really? Oh, good old giant tiger, eh? Yeah, we buy our tickets. We don't buy our tickets. We buy our trees at IKEA every year because we get them. Like if we go back and buy something before March the following year, we get the money back. So it's like we get our trees for free. And it's, they're tree farmed, which is what we do anyway. We'd go to a tree farm if we weren't going to IKEA. When when I was a kid and we lived in Winnipeg, yes, we didn't live in Winnipeg. We lived in Saint Boniface. It was a small French city on the other side of the river, if I remember correctly. Was it a river? Just a highway? No, other side of the river. We used to go to a tree farm and cut our own tree. Good memories. Okay, I'm going to try to @ somebody and see if this private chat will work. But I think that maybe... Hey, Dr. Sharp is here. Yes, I lived in the Peg. Well, I lived right outside the Peg. Winnipeg is a town that you don't ever really have to go to. Although I think the Guess Who are from there. I think the Guess Who are from there. 2216. Just give me one little second to drink another bit of my beer. Martin, do you have scotch on you tonight? Or whiskey of any sort? Because I'm thinking of switching it to the scotch, but Dennis, you got some whiskey on the go? We're gonna have a little dram together, guys. I got my what the hell are these called again? Glencairn glass, I think. The Glencairn glass, yes. Got my Glencairn ready to go. It's weird, like I can't. Oh, you had a glass of wine earlier. Okay. There's whiskey in the jar. Thank you, Wood Pigeon, for reminding me of that song. That's a song that we do, in fact, play professionally. Hold on, just let me do one little thing here, guys. Just one little thing. Oh, this phone. Holy crap, it just kills me. It just kills me. It's a loaner. I as I've said, I'm grateful that somebody loaned me a phone until I can afford to replace my broken one, but oh god. That glass looks like it needed whiskey. I think I'm gonna do it. Dennis, you gonna join in, or am I drinking alone? Jill's coming back from a conference tomorrow. Where is she? Let me just do one little thing. Just one little thing. Rats, that's not what I wanted to do. Hang about. Fogies of the Fogie variety. I don't even know what that means. Does that work? I recently changed all my passwords, and man, I don't remember a damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. Okay. Hold on one little. What did I do with my StreamYard window? There we go. Just give me 1 second here. I promise this will get more interesting in a second. I hope what I just sent to somebody worked. I hope. If it did, what about to find out? If it did not, I will have to redo that. Because I'm being sneaky. I'm not being sneaky. Come on, that's not nice. Dennis, when you figure out how to run StreamYard through OBS on a Mac, I'm going to want to hear from you because I've had the same damn thought. Hold on. That's what I'm looking for. Hold on. Can you hear me? Can we hear you?
Testing. Can you hear me?
I realize I have to put these on in order to hear anything. Hilarious. I'm trying to like.
Oh, well. Am I audible now?
Yep, you're good. No, I didn't have my cans on, so I didn't hear anything.
Oh,
I don't have any actual speakers for my Hackintosh here, so if I don't have my cans on, I don't hear anything.
Great. No, thanks for the invite. I'm sorry that I don't have any scotch to drink.
No, it's okay.
And I finished the wine off earlier tonight. So,
what did you have?
It was what is it? It's I just tossed the bottle out. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, and it is something Rossi. I think it's a Portuguese wine. Anyway.
A Portuguese, okay.
Yeah. Geez, I can't remember the name of it, but anyway.
You know, it's funny. We bought a bottle of wine a bottle of bubbly and a bottle of wine at the duty free on our way to Las Vegas, and obviously we popped the bubbly when my wife came across the finish line of the. She did a half marathon. That's why we were in Vegas. Otherwise, there's no reason to go for us. But the wine we forgot to drink. And so last night, the whole thing was that we decided not to do checked baggage. Faster, easier, no problems, except that I couldn't bring an axe. But anyway.
Right.
So then last night we were sitting there at like 1:30 in the morning. Like, we didn't drink this, and we're not going to drink this now. You know? So we ended up having to. I did a check bag, but we bought this damn wine at the duty free on the way there, and then it came back with us. I was like, okay, all right, that's one way of buying wine, I guess. Let me just check the comments on the side here, make sure we're not missing anything.
I'm curious to hear more about your trip to the Grand Canyon, actually.
Well, I've done 3 videos, so you're going to hear all about it.
Okay, well then maybe I don't want to.
Yeah. Well, I'm dying to talk about it all, but I don't want to blow my,
Yeah, yeah. Well, can I ask? Okay, North Rim or South Rim?
North, I think. Wait, I don't remember. It's the one.
Close to Flagstaff or on the other side?
I think it was South Rim.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't North. It was South Rim.
Yeah.
It was real high, and like there was no way to get down, I think.
Yeah, there's a way to get down from both the North and the South Rim, but you have to be in the right spot. Like there's a trail that they excavated like a century ago or more to get all the way down. Yeah, it's magnificent. I have a funny story to tell you about that, actually.
Yeah.
Back in the, I don't know, it was the early 90s early 90s, my wife and I went on a backpacking trip through much of the American Southwest, and the first stop was the Grand Canyon, and we thought we were in pretty good shape. And we did some backpacking, some hiking, and I bought brand new hiking boots, really good pair of Basque boots that I broke in, and I took every precaution, and thank goodness we brought moleskin because it would have been a disaster. And the Grand Canyon is the hardest hike you will ever do. And you think, oh, come on, what about mountain climbing? This is a mountain. It's an inside-out mountain.
It's an inside-out mountain.
You do the easy part first, and you're putting the brakes on all the way. It took us 8 hours to get down to the bottom, and then we camped overnight. And we were so sore, I was afraid that I couldn't get out the next day. And we only had one night stay at the bottom of the canyon by the river, Colorado River. And then you have to hike out the next day when you are as stiff and as sore as you've ever been in your life. So the front of your thighs are killing you from putting on the brakes going down a steep hill, because it's very steep, right?
And how are your calves? Because going downhill can be hard on the calves too, eh?
Yeah. It's worse on the way up though, because they tighten up on the way down, and then on the way up, your feet are pointing up, so you're stretching your calves now, right? It was excruciating. We were beat up for days. Like 2 days later, we were hobbling around, and we were in our 20s, like, we were young then, yeah. Late 20s, yeah. I would undertake it now at my age, knowing what I know now, because I would do it differently. And I would bring much less gear. I mean, we were, young students, eating over a sink. We didn't have anything. So all our camping gear was cheap crap from Army surplus stores. And it was enormously heavy, and, it didn't make any sense given the kind of thing that we were doing.
Right.
So we would do it very differently now, and I would give myself more time at the bottom for recovery. And I would train for it. At least 2 days down there. The next day, I was so paralyzed. I mean, I had a hard time sleeping. I was so sore, and I was so preoccupied with the fear that I couldn't get out that I had a hard time sleeping, because I thought I'm stuck. Right? Like when you're so sore, you can. I don't know if you've ever done like a really hard leg workout or something, and you think, oh, I got this, I'm fine. And then the next day, you try to sit down on the toilet, and as you're sitting down, you drop because you're so sore, and then you can't get off like you're
like, I'm gonna be on this can for the whole day.
Yeah, your hamstrings and quads are killing you. Like it was like that, only much worse. So in my present fitness level, I couldn't undertake that hike. I would have to train because it's an inside-out mountain, and you have to pack all your own water. Because depending on which way you go, if you go down, what we did is we went on the North Rim. We hiked down the North. We went down the South Rim, the South Kaibab Trail, and then we came out on the Bright Angel Trail.
Is that how you pronounce that? Kaibab?
Yeah, the South Kaibab Trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that tells me that that's exactly where we went, because we went through the Kaibab, was it National Forest?
Yeah.
And we couldn't figure out it was Kaibab or Kaibab or Kai Bob.
Kai Bob. At least that's how it was pronounced by the people that were around us at the time.
Hey,
So,
Hey, Dennis. Mute your
that's how it was pronounced. Oh yeah, you're being back.
your YouTube.
Right, I had to kill I forgot to kill my my YouTube stream there.
But yeah, I could well imagine that. So what would you give yourself? 3 days at the bottom? 2?
I think 2 would be enough to recover. There's not tons to do once you're down there. It's a small campground. I mean, there's some ranger-led activities, nature hikes and stuff like that, but there's not tons to do down there. And here's another thing that was an eye-opener. This was the funny part of the story. The funny part of the story is that when we slept the night before we descended, we slept on the rim at a campground.
Dennis?
Well,
Cheers.
Even if it's only water. Cheers.
Yeah, same here. I haven't got to the coffee maker yet.
We froze on the rim. This was in late October, early November, and we froze. It was really, really cold. So we thought, holy crap, well, glad we brought some, a good, heavy sleeping bag and some long underwear and a hat and stuff. It was that cold. It felt like winter camping. We could see our breath. So we go down this. Now it's a desert, but what we did not, can't believe I didn't think of this, but as we descended, it got hotter and hotter and hotter. And it wasn't because it was, the sun was rising or anything like that. It's that when you're way up there, you're at a high elevation. It's like being on a mountaintop. But as you go down towards the river, towards the Colorado River, you're descending into a steamy, hot, humid riparian habitat, right? It was very lush and jungly in parts down there. And we were dying of heat. And then we realized, this heavy sleeping bag, the extra clothes that we brought, none of it was necessary. We had just not done enough homework on desert camping and the effect that elevation would have, right? So
yeah, because it's at a high elevation, but when you get to the bottom, it's not like, how far down did you climb?
All the way down to the Colorado. And
so how many meters would that be, or feet?
I don't know. I don't know, but I mean, you're effectively on top of a mountain and you descend down, closer to sea level. So, but it's not sea level, but it's closer to sea level, because that's how that canyon was formed, right? It was a river, and there was geological activity that raised the land, and the water kept cutting through the channel, right? And so you really are on a mountain up there when you're on either one of the rims, right?
Yeah.
So and there's this terrible illusion when you're hiking out. You look up and you go, oh, there, I see the rim, I see the crest, and you get up there and no, it's a false rim. It's just there's another one to go and another one to go and another one, and it kept happening. We were despondent. It took 8 hours to hike out. It took almost 8 hours to hike in, and the route out was a little more direct, and it took 8 hours to get out, but it was brutal. It's really hard. I would encourage anyone to do it because it's magnificent, it's beautiful, but you got to be really fit. You have to have fantastic boots. We bumped into a fellow who was hiking out. He'd gone halfway in and halfway out in sneakers, and his sneakers had just completely blown out on him from constantly putting on the brakes down these steep inclines, and he lost a toenail. He had to cut off part the toe of his sneaker to expose his toe because he hadn't trimmed his toenail. So you have to have good socks. You have to bring foot powder. You have to have boots that fit really, really well. They can't be sloppy or loose on you. You have to bring moleskin or Leukotape or something like that in case you get a hot spot and a blister starts to form. As soon as that starts, you have to stop it, or your trip is over. You'll be an invalid by the time you get down there. So we were sort of young and dumb and had no sense of what we needed to do. And there was no internet back then to speak of.
Yeah.
So we could not just sort of say, hey, anyone who's done the Grand Canyon, can you give us some do's and don'ts? So we made a lot of mistakes. And they don't let you go in the Grand Canyon to camp without giving you a talk first. So first of all, you have to book like a year in advance, right? And we didn't. We just showed up and they said, no, you can't go in. And we're like, oh, you're kidding. And they said, well, come back tomorrow at 7 a.m. There's always someone who doesn't show. And if you are first in line, the first few people in line, there's a chance they'll get in. So we were first in line and we got in. But they give you a talk. It's not a pep talk. It's a talk to discourage you. They tell you have to have a hat. If you don't have a brimmed hat, we won't let you in. You have to have this. Yeah, that's right. Because it's the desert. You're really exposed. And they said you have to have boots. You can't go in with sneakers. You have to have containers, enough containers for water. We will not let you in without that. And so they literally had to see our gear, and they would not issue us a permit to go down there. I don't know if that's still the case. This was many years ago, but they took it that seriously. And then they took us to an area in this little hall.
Yeah.
The office dividers. Those felt office dividers that
that make
they make cubicles out of them. Well, they had those there, and they were full of photographs, Polaroids, old Polaroids. Okay, they were Polaroids of dead people that they had found. Right, people die in that. People think it's like Disneyland or something. It's the Grand Canyon. It's like climbing Everest or something like that. There are fatalities every year. There are serious injuries, and some years there are fatalities. And they showed us pictures of people who were dead and decaying and found, and because they had wandered off the trail or they had fallen, they'd not brought water, they'd gotten dehydrated, they errors in judgment, toppling off of cliffs. It was awful.
Something interesting. First of all, Dr. Sharps says he thinks it's at 5,000 feet elevation. I think you're right that the surface is, because I think I remember seeing that somewhere. But something you said, oh yeah, okay. So on the South Rim, it's like on their little brochures and everything. It's open 24 hours. The parking is not. The visitor lodge is not. The store is not. But you can go along that rim at any time of night. And there are no lights, so I shudder to think how many people just sort of accidentally pitch over the side at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, well, I think most of the accidents probably happen way in. Like there's a protocol in when you're hiking, right? People who do a lot of through hikes know this, that if you're going down, if you're fresh and going into a park or in something like this, or climbing a mountain or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever's fresh, you take the outside of the trail. Okay, you take the dangerous part of the trail, and whoever's tired and fatigued, right? They get
the same side.
Yeah. So when you're going in the Grand Canyon, what often happens is this: the trail down is cut out of the living rock. So on one side of you is a sheer cliff wall going all the way up, and on the other side is a sheer drop. Right. Also, completely lethal. Right.
Yeah.
And the trail can be just a little bit wider than a human skate. I mean, they have mule trains that go down there. So in some places it's wider than others, but in some places it's incredibly, worrisomely narrow. And I can remember there were occasions where we were hiking out and we were tired, and we would see people who were not observing the proper protocol, and they'd have their packs on with their closed-cell mattresses strapped to the side, and they would take up the whole trail. And they expected you to pass on the outside when you're tired and you're not sure-footed anymore, you're clumsy and stuff like that. So there's etiquette involved. So I can readily see people just dropping off the cliff that way and falling either a short distance or a very great distance to their death. Mm-hmm. It's not a picnic. It's the Grand Canyon is like mountain climbing. It's a very popular mountain. Lots of people see it. Lots of people go there. They hike in about an hour, then they hike out again. They think they've done the Grand Canyon, but to hike in all the way down to the bottom and out the other side, or back out the way you came, is a real hard hike.
Well, maybe my biggest problem is that I've got a wicked fear of heights.
Oh, it's not the place for you. You're looking down sheer drops the whole way. Like, you're going to take the best photography of your life there because of this big sky, and the scenery is ever changing, and there's incredible wildlife there. There's mule deer all over the place, and every kind of hawk and eagles. I mean, it's magnificent. But yeah, no, there's a lot of dizzying drops on. It's either going to be on your left or your right, depending which trail you're going down and whether you're going in or out. Yeah. But it's nauseating at times. There were times where I was like, well, I'm not going to just stand there and look down there because I'm going to get dizzy. I just need to get back. It's not all like that, but there are many sections like that. You can hike for hours where it's just a drop on one side.
But now, can you canoe any part of it?
Whitewater rafting is what they do down there. I'm not aware that you could canoe it. I'm sure some kayakers could do it. I don't think you could do it in an open canoe. You could probably do it in a closed canoe. And I know that they have, these outfitters that take teams of rafts down there along the Colorado. But I mean, it's huge, huge water. I don't know if there's any stretches that you could canoe. But I don't think you would ever want to attempt it in an open canoe. But there might be sections of the Colorado that are fairly placid where it would be fine.
Well, the Colorado is pretty long, right? I mean, it goes from the Hoover Dam all the way
out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
My wife and I have sort of, it's on our bucket list to go back to see, like, because I'm almost 55 now, and I would like to know if, before I reach 60, could I still do it? Could I go back? If I trained myself with the light gear that we have now and the knowledge that we have now, what we don't need to bring, what we do need to bring, and we had 2 nights down there, so I could have a real full day of recovery before the hike out. Could we do it? Because that's another thing is there's no vehicles. Right? There's 3 ways in: on foot, on mule, and by helicopter, and that's it. And if you get hurt, it's a helicopter ride out, and that's going to cost you a fortune, right? So there's no park ranger that's just going to come to your rescue or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's no vehicles.
Hey, Tyler's back. So I realize I've been ignoring the side chat. Anyways, it's just something I'm trying to find something to do for my 50th birthday.
How about go for a beer?
Yeah.
Well, that would be great. Yeah.
Down here in Niagara.
For my 40th, I bought myself that fancy bass, right? And I'd been saving up since I was 34 for it. So I mean, something to do with that really new canoe I'm going to buy is going to be my 50th birthday. But like, I want to train up for something. Right. And if that's like a half marathon or a marathon, that's fine. But if I want to do a canoe trip somewhere specific for my 50th birthday and spend the next couple of years getting my skills up, then that's also okay, And so I'm thinking of like what kind of hike or canoe trip would be something cool to aim for. I think I showed off at the last live stream, but I'm not sure. I picked up Kevin Callan's book about the lost canoe trips of Ontario. Bloody hell.
Canoe routes?
Yeah, the one where when we were all talking in that on Dennis, one of your live streams, the one where he first challenged me to write that book.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I've started the very, very first steps of working towards.
Oh, awesome.
Because I figure I may as well do it,
That's like finding crown land in Quebec type of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've lost my train of thought. I was going to say something brilliant, and it's gone. What was I talking about?
What you wanted to do for your 50th.
Oh yeah, so like.
Well, you're talking about the Lost Canoe Routes book too.
Yeah, and that was sort of a tangent to like I want to get my skills up and stuff so that I'm not just canoeing the Lachine Canal here in Montreal kind of thing. I want to spend the next couple of years becoming more accomplished, as a canoeist or becoming a canoeist. Someone I like, as you guys know, and most of the people who've been watching here know, I canoed as a kid in the Royal Canadian Air Cadets, and then I lost track of that for how long has it been since I was 18? I think I'm 47, guys. And I like to mark the decades. The 30th I didn't care about, but 40 was fancy base. 50, it's got to be something. I
have a suggestion. Okay, once you get that canoe and you've had some flat water experience under your belt, and you're comfortable doing all the basic strokes and stuff like that, and maybe taking a trip somewhere, a short trip or something like that. head over to the Madawaska Canoe Center and take a whitewater course. You can take a 5-day whitewater course. Even if you never use it, you will never forget that experience of taking a course in whitewater in a safe circumstance with very professional instructors that are safety conscious, that will look after you, and you'll wipe out 100 times in 5 days. And it's effectively a camping trip. Like, they have little cabins that you can stay in, or you can tent. My wife and I went and tented in it, and it's fantastic. And I feel like I got a lifetime of whitewater in 5 days. It was fantastic.
I'm wondering if that's the place. One of the people I work with did a weekend like canoe skills.
Yeah, they offer that. Yeah.
And she said it was fabulous because no matter what, you're getting dunked, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's part of it. Part of it is it's expensive as stuff.
It is expensive, but I mean, it is world-class instruction. It is.
Yeah, and I've managed to wrangle. I don't want to say permission, but like when it's like $1,000 for a weekend, you kind of gotta talk to the wife about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially because unlike you, Martin, my wife and I don't do this together.
Right, she's not into that. Yeah.
She's into camping, but it's more what I call glamping, right?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, due to her job, which I will not talk about in public, she cannot appear on screen on any of my videos. Period. So that this part of my life that we're talking about right now is completely separate from that.
Right.
But the Madawaska outfit, I believe, just also offers like camping, so we could take the whole family camping, and I or Camille and I can take the actual course.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know about Camille. I mean, how old is she?
Maybe a little young. She's 8 now.
Yeah. No, I don't know that they. I don't think that they. Yeah. There's a lot of liability, right? I mean, things can go wrong. You are paddling in white water. There are rocks. You have to wear a helmet and stuff like that. You have to learn self-rescue and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I do figure that I should take the course, just because if I'm taking Camille canoeing in a serious way, I got to know what I'm doing if something goes south, right?
Yeah.
Wait, let me just check something. Dr. Sharp asked, how difficult is it to get a multi-day pass? Now, is that to the Grand Canyon you're asking, Doctor? Oh, Tenenbaum's wife took a bunch of lessons with Becky Mason. Yeah, the way she's structured her courses seems a little different than the Madawaska. Like, the Madawaska seems like I can get, like, for the weekend course I'm talking about, I can get a general skill, like a little bit of whitewater maybe, but, getting turned over and getting back in and stuff. Her courses seem to be broken up a lot more. There are more sort of stages. Unfortunately, that is most convenient to Ottawa. Yeah, but I'm a 2-hour drive from Ottawa. I have no problem getting there.
Yeah, Beck Mason offers all kinds of instruction, but I mean, if you want a fantastic instruction just in flat water paddling, take a course with Becky Mason, and you will be learning not from like some idiot like me who's largely self-taught. You'd be learning from someone who's absolutely world class, and you wouldn't have to worry about whitewater. I mean, your flat water skills would have been acquired from the best possible instructor.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she is surely one of the best instructors in the world. I mean, I'm saying this just from watching the videos. Her control of
look who the hell she learned from, right?
And yeah, so just some nobody,
just some dude, just some guy,
just
a guy. Yes, Dr. Sharp is asking about a multi-day pass to Grand Canyon. I thought, okay, now, Dr. Sharp, we were only going for 1 day, but I seem to remember that it was, just looking at the sign, it was a $35 charge for a 1 to 7 days per car, I think, but I don't know that. Maybe Simone's like already looking this up or something, but like, it wouldn't be difficult to get, because the only pass you really care about is like the parking, right? Because you drive in and you park and stuff. But actually, so that I guess if you're camping, you would get a multi-day pass for the car, But if you're just doing a day trip, maybe not. I don't know. I should have looked that up because we definitely want to go back when Camille's a little older and Clem is old enough. Like maybe Clem is 6. You know, the availability seemed okay. I mean, you just pick it up at the gate kind of thing. It's like going to a national park here. What I think the problem would be is making sure that there's camping available. There's camping nearby, which is probably what we would do. We came across a couple of campsites in the area because I'm thinking that you probably have to book a Grand Canyon campsite pretty damn far in advance. Just going on what I saw with. Wait, Pine Martin, when did you say you were there? You were in like early October?
Yeah, it was late October, early November. And we were tenting, and there were spots. People who were there in RVs and car camping, there were no spots unless you had booked, right? Yeah. But there were a few tent spots available, and so we were fine. You know, we rented a car from Flagstaff. We took the train from Montreal to Arizona.
Oh wow! I bet you that was a nice trip.
It was, except we were both sick. We were both really sick.
Really?
Both had the flu. It was actually miserable. It was beautiful scenery, but we were extremely sick. But we were recovered by the time we arrived, thank goodness. Okay. And then we rented a car from Flagstaff, and then drove up to the Grand Canyon. And the scenery was so spectacular on the way. I'd look over and like there's the Grand Canyon, and my wife was like, "Keep your eyes on the road. Keep your eyes on the road." Yeah. It was so hard not to look at it, right? And because you know it's this literally an icon in our culture, right? And then when you finally see it, when you look across that expanse, right? Oh my goodness, it's like looking into deep geological time. It's beautiful.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm a bit of a geology geek. Like I don't know much about it, but you know, part of the reason I will sit there and stare at a mountain for an hour is the striations, right, of the strap. By the way, Dr. Sharp, I found the page for Grand Canyon for the Grand Canyon camping information, so I just posted that.
I need to step away for a moment. I'll
sure.
be right back. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, Martin's an interesting guy. He's done a lot.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. Yeah, but you've done a lot too.
Yeah. But
I mean, just watching your videos, you know, you've been. It's not like you're not active in the canoeing and the camping. Where did you learn your skills, by the way?
Just self-taught and just self-taught. Like I say, I've been canoeing. She's 30 years probably. So it's you know what, you go out. I remember my first canoe trip that I ever did. It was I remember carrying cooler bottles of water. You know, my buddy and I brought baseball gloves, and we're going like 30-40 miles into the interior. Some of the worst portages I've ever done in my life based on the weight that we were carrying, right? But we didn't know back then. We didn't have water filters. Heck, when we run out of our 2-liter water bottles, we went thirsty for like 2 days. Oh. We were afraid to drink the water out of the lake, right?
Worst thing that happens, what, jarred you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty possible up where we were because the water, there's like a lot of beaver population up there and stuff, and but you know, and from that, you know, you learn, right? Like didn't even have my first tent for camping like that was one of those. Remember those old style pop-up or little pop tents?
Oh yeah,
about 2 feet off the ground, like you know, at the peak, and you had to crawl in past the little pole. And I remember that one of the first campsites I camped at was a rock point. Try and set up a pop tent on a rock point.
Okay.
Didn't work out too well.
I could see that being problematic at best.
Yeah. And then I'm like 6'1". My feet were sticking out the end.
I don't know if they made a pop tent long enough for you.
No, that's what I say. My feet were sticking out the end. If it rained out, I wanted to keep my head dry, so my feet stuck out the end, right? So, and then you kick the pole, and the whole thing would fall there. Yeah, it was a real shit show.
Those were the days, though, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Martin, I was just asking Dennis where he learned how to canoe, and he says he's self-taught over 3 decades. And he was just reminiscing about his first canoe trip.
Yeah, I was able to hear. I just had to step away, but I was able to hear. So,
Okay.
Dennis, I got a question for you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was about to say, keep the conversation going. I'm going to step away for a second.
There you
Okay.
go.
Yeah, Des. So you're attending the Ontario Winter Camping Symposium this weekend.
Sorry.
Priorities, family
Yep.
first.
Yep. Happy wife, happy life.
That's
Remember
right.
everybody.
Hello, Mrs. Canoe Hound. You were asking me when I'm going to be there. I'm arriving Friday night,
Right.
but I was wondering if you're going to be there early on Saturday, we can get together and do breakfast or something beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So just let me know, or just keep that in mind if you like. We can do that. Certainly get together and do lunch or something later.
Yeah, I'm about an hour and a half out, living down in Niagara here, so
Okay.
probably an hour and a half.
Yeah,
yeah. So I was gonna leave the house here at probably around 6:30ish to get there for a little early because I got the boys from Kid Products. I want to run into them as well, but maybe in PM there, I'll grab your phone number or something. If I'm getting there early enough, maybe I'll find out where you're at and
sure.
for coffee or brekkie or something. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. The doors open at 9.
Yeah.
And the first talk begins at 10. So and I know I want to be there at 9 because you want to meet people and all that. And I think I'm going to get there a little early to help David out, help get set up and stuff like that because there's a lot of vendors to bring stuff in, and so I like to help out.
Sure.
And help get set up so that they have plenty of time to show off their wares and stuff like that, and talk to the visitors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm looking so forward to this symposium. Like I say, I've never been to one before.
You haven't been to the canoeing ones either?
No.
Oh, you're gonna love it, man! You're gonna love it.
Yeah. I'm like I say, I'm super excited to go into one of these things. So
yeah,
and like I've heard about them, but you know what? It's always been one of those things where something's always going on.
Yeah.
So, like say priorities, right? And these days it seems like I've dropped a lot of stuff there to really focus on all this outdoor activity and my canoe trips and stuff like that. For me it's been since December when I revamped my YouTube channel. It's been a good season since, like, from then till now. I've had a lot of opportunity to get up north and stuff like that. So, and it's something I've always loved. I've had a million hobbies in my lifetime. I've had a million hobbies. My wife says, you have a new hobby every week, but there's only one thing that's only been consistent with me, and that's my love for the outdoors, right?
That's interesting. So, me too, actually. Although I'm not a guy with a million hobbies.
I've had a lot of hobbies. I still have a lot of hobbies. Over the past 10 years, I've been honing things a little bit because I found that as the guy with 20 hobbies, I never threw enough time into anything to become any good at it.
Yeah.
And, and it's funny because I listen to guys like you and you guys and like Kevin. And I envy you guys that you honed in on it earlier than I did. Because the experience that started me down the road to where I am today in terms of the outdoors happened when I was 16. And it was like a non-event. I think I mentioned this in a real early. I'm going to bore you with this, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. I'm like 16, self-involved, right? Writing poetry, reading Jean-Paul Sartre because it made me interesting to the blue-haired girl on the next table kind of thing. Right?
I was that guy too.
Yeah, I think
right down to reading Sartre.
Yeah. And I'm like, thanks to the magic of divorce, I grew up shuttling back and forth between Montreal and Vancouver. And every summer, my dad and my sister and I would take a camping trip. Straight up canoe camping, like the most rock bottom priced equipment, on at least 2 occasions because my dad and I were both working in construction. Like the camping knife was one of those old what's it called, a work knife, You know, the metal one where you bring out this little razor, utility knife, right?
Oh.
So we're not talking about great stuff here. The axe was the cheapest thing at Canadian Tire in like 1986 kind of thing. But man, we were at I can never remember if we were at Golden Ears or Manning Provincial Park. I think it was Manning because Manning has these subalpine meadows. Okay, so we're on a trail, sort of at the top of in these subalpine meadows.
Good night, Simo.
At oh, all right. See you later, Simo. And we're on this tour being given by one of the park rangers, and I don't really remember much about her, but I remember her voice, man. I remember she was good looking. I remember her voice was, and she was kind of youngish, older than me, obviously, because she was a park ranger and had a degree as a botanist. So she was talking about plants. Here's where I get to geek it, and she's talking about all these plants, and I'm not paying attention to anything except myself because I'm a self-centered 16-year-old. But like that, her voice was like, you know, ooh. But I looked down, and she wasn't even talking about this yet. And below us, there's this bowl valley. You know the valleys that are kind of like, you know, mountain here, mountain there, and it's just like a big bowl. No water at the bottom, just a big meadow. And there's this huge herd of some sort of ungulate, maybe elk, maybe caribou. I don't know what they had there. And as it moved across the bottom of the valley, it looked like an ink stain that just perfectly molded to the. And I don't mean like boom, I'm all like ecological and no, but something did go click, and over time I gradually became more and more invested in that kind of stuff, you know, to where I am today. I sit here and I listen to people who got real focused on that real early, especially guys like Kevin, right? Because I was a writer for a long time. I still am, but I'm a tech writer, whereas I used to work in books and magazines. And I look at a good 2 decades of wasted time, you know, because I was really directionless for so long, just going where the money was, or whether this was, or whether that was.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I had a love of the outdoors and camping and hiking and all that stuff, and bushcraft before I knew there was an expression for bushcraft when I was a kid, because I grew up in rural Quebec.
Yeah.
And I lived literally on the shores of the Ottawa. Our home was right on the shore of the Ottawa River, and then behind me was just, you know, bush, mostly privately owned, but it was all bush, right?
That doesn't sound perfect at all.
No, it was fantastic. I spent all my time in the bush pretty much, or in the river. But funny, I lived on the river. We didn't own a boat. We didn't have a canoe or anything like that. So I didn't discover canoeing until I was about 30. So I had this love of the outdoors, and I did a lot of camping with friends and solo camping, because in those days, parents just were not hung up. They weren't sort of helicopter parents. They weren't hovering around you all the time. They weren't worried about that. You'd leave after breakfast, you'd come in for lunch, you'd leave again. They expected you to come home for supper and then go out again until it got dark, and then you'd come in, and that's it. So like they were used to you being gone. And if you said, "Mom, I'm going out in the bush," you know, she'd pack me a lunch and I would go off, and I'd be gone all day. She wouldn't see me until supper time. And so that's how my days were for a long time. So I got really used to just being in the woods and comfortable in the woods with my friends and by myself. And then when I started university, that kind of died, because then when I started university, I was living in Montreal, and I didn't have a car, so I had no way to get out of the city and no place to go. And the only time I would get out into the bush is when I would go back home on holidays or something like that. And then I, spend some time with my family, and then I would escape into the bush for a while. So camping disappeared from my life for many, many years while I was an undergraduate student and starting graduate school.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, fortunately, was into the outdoors also. Something I didn't even know about her when we met. She didn't know that about me. I didn't know that about her. We sort of discovered it like years into our relationship. Oh, you like the outdoors?
What are we waiting for?
And I didn't have any camping equipment in our apartment when we lived together. It was all back home and stuff like that. So we sort of bought everything anew and started taking these trips. So we went to Washington, we went to Southwest, we went to, did all that desert camping and the Grand Canyon. And so we would take these sort of long journeys. Like I literally took off an entire semester, just postponed grad school by a semester just so I could take them, like I think it was a 6 or 7 week trip to do desert camping. So but during those years, those formative years, which would have been the richest time to do a lot of outdoorsy camping stuff, I didn't do any because I was preoccupied with graduate school and his girlfriend or my wife by then, and then a professional career and stuff like that. So it was only when we got more settled, when we finished grad school and I got more settled, we had a house, only then did, we rediscover this. And canoeing really did it. Canoeing took us from just weekend warrior hikers to we want to structure our lives around this. We want to do this as much as possible, as often as possible, as long as possible, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. But I sympathize with that sense of lost time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a feeling that I have to live with, because I can't take the time back. I can't turn the clock back 20 years and okay, let's do this,
Yeah, well, you have an advantage. You're not young and dumb,
Yeah.
So you're inexperienced in certain aspects, like canoe tripping, for instance. You haven't done any, right? But you're going to bring the sort of wisdom, and also you have this tremendous resource that I didn't have when I was young, and that's YouTube. You can learn about places, you can learn about gear, you can learn about techniques and skills. I picked up so much just in the last 10 years, just because of YouTube, right? It expanded my horizons about, I only discovered Crown Land Camping thanks to the books of Kevin Callan, but so there's all this stuff that's available to us now that wasn't available to us back then. So, in a way, you're probably accelerating through an awful lot, if you'd had to sort of learn everything from the 1 or 2 friends that who are into camping, you probably wouldn't know very much, wouldn't have gone very far. Because I know I didn't, I didn't take any fancy trips when I was young. I did a lot of camping, but I didn't go anywhere interesting, really. It was just my backyard. So things got more interesting as my world expanded, right? And you have to be an adult. And you're an adult now, and as your kids get older and more autonomous and stuff like that, that'll free up your own time.
Yeah, I just want to pull attention to what Tenenbaum says. The amount of information available on canoe routes for now is amazing.
Yeah,
it used to be that just finding information was exceptionally difficult. And Tenenbaum, that's exactly what I'm dealing with when it comes to finding Crown Land in Quebec, which is why Kevin Callan sort of said, "So write the damn book, dude." So I said, "Okay." Shit. And as I sort of try to work my way through, it's just like this province is a headache wrapped inside a shell of nausea when it comes to trying to get certain kinds of information.
Well, you know what? You don't have to start big though. You can start small because Quebec is a pretty huge province, right?
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
Yeah,
it's pretty damn big. Yeah. What I'm thinking of doing is sort of starting. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. It's not going to be ready in a year, that's for sure. It's going to take me a long time, but it'll give me something to work towards. Because what I've noticed is, I've been on parental leave for a few months now, and I'm going back to work in January. And there's this feeling that's been creeping up the back of my spine about how I've wasted what could have been what was a creative opportunity, even though there's no way I could have taken advantage of that creative opportunity because I'm keeping a baby alive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What else?
It's called the priorities in life, right? You take care of what's important first. And
Yeah. I mean, camping is a passion for me, and the outdoors is a passion for me. But it's not my job, and it's not my life. I'd like to make it my life, but there's a zillion other things that intrude upon that.
Yeah,
earning money and relationships and, responsibilities to family and stuff like that. And
But you're fortunate in that you live with someone who will go with you on those trips, who will buy in, you know?
yeah, well, I'm really fortunate in that respect. It's more than just buy-in. She often initiates these things. Like our trip to the Grand Canyon, that was her idea. Our trip to the Southwest was her idea. Our trip to go to Washington State and climb a glacier and stuff like that, that was her idea. Like she's the one who originates these ideas, and I'm always like, okay, like you do the research, honey, and I will do all the heavy lifting. And so that's how it goes. And whenever we go on a trip, Crown Land or a park or whatever it is that we're doing, it's the wife that decides. It's just like buying a house or a car. The wife decides these things these days. Right. It's our wives that make these decisions. And it's the same thing when we go tripping. My wife invariably picks the next destination.
Okay.
She'll give me choices. She'll say, well, you want to do this or do you want to do this? And then I'll put in my 2 cents. But invariably, she makes those decisions. But when we're out there, I tend to make all the practical decisions and the navigation choices and stuff like that. Like she's kind of she's the brains of the operation, and I'm sort of the muscle. And I'm not that I'm muscly. I'm not a big strapping guy, but that's our division of labor. So I'm really blessed in that I don't have to twist her arm to do it.
Rub it in, Jess.
That was a bitchy thing to do, wasn't it? Sorry, guys.
Last night that was me. Last night was a pretty good stream.
That was good. That was fun.
I bit into my bottle of bourbon a little deeper than I probably wanted to last night.
Well, here's the thing. Like, now I don't know if I should, because Dennis, as we've already said, like, I'm going to bend over backwards to make sure that my panel discussion series doesn't echo your interview series too much. So I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't watch last night's episode until after my winter camping episode is done, because I don't want like the questions that you ask and discuss to inform what I'm doing too much, but I'm dying to see it.
Last night, and Martin could attest to this, I just threw out a couple of generalized topics, and it wasn't really I wanted last night's stream to go just where it wanted to go.
Yeah,
it pretty much worked out that well in it that way, and it worked out really well. So
maybe I'll watch it again.
It was very loosely structured, and it was more like, we had some things that we thought were important to bring to the table, and we started off with that, and Dennis guided all of that, and then he'd bring in questions that had been posed from the chat, and it was very loosely structured, but it had the feel of a bunch of people who are into this stuff. Like it didn't feel terribly lectury, which is what I was worried about. Because I can be long-winded, and I was worried that between me and Kevin, who's also long-winded, and Chris, who's actually a little bit long-winded too, less than me, that it would be kind of pedantic and dull. But I don't think it was, because we had different perspectives. We had disagreements about things, different things that we wanted to emphasize, and we disagreed on styles of camping and gear and stuff like that. And I thought that was good. It was healthy. It sort of.
And how long did it last?
Way over 2 hours.
Yeah, well, actually, the entire show was 3 hours. I cut it off at 10 o'clock.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, so it went for, but the way I've got the show structured is the first hour is really the meat and potatoes, right? And then after that, there is what I like to call overtime. So, it's the general banter. We can take the second half of the show anywhere it wants to go.
Yeah. So is
that off topic?
Is that sort of the same as I was talking about earlier in this live stream, where I would have my closed, because I've only got like a third of the screen. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
1 hour would be just my guests and me, and then after that hour, I would open it up to whoever else wanted to join in. Is that like kind of what you're talking about?
That's how I want I'm trying to structure my show. Is if I'm doing an interview with a particular individual, like when I interviewed Martin, or when I had Ralph on last week, or Kevin, and then Ralph before that. I want to try and structure it where the first hour is the meat and potatoes. It's the interview with the individual. After that, we'll open it up to, and it's been our core regulars here now, basically Martin, Kevin pipes in, Steig from Stein North, and
So it's working well then.
yeah, it's all so far. It seems to be working well for me.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm surprised at how many people I know who've sort of come over, and like I expected, like the first time I said, hey, I'm watching the stream, I'm going to be on, you expect some of your subscribers to come over and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, are they going to stick around? But they stuck around. They like the format. So what Dennis has created over there is really good. It's kind of it's this sense of community, right? So, and I don't want to step on any toes here, but Jess, I don't think that you need to be terribly concerned about having a style that's similar. I mean, this isn't a formula, right? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Why does it have to be sort of different in style? You're going to have a different audience. You're going to have different topics. If you have a different panel, I mean, you could have a winter camping panel again. Just don't invite me on. Invite 3 different people on, and it's going to be a completely different conversation. To the extent that there's a certain amount of common wisdom with respect to winter camping, there'll be overlap in the points that are made. It's going to be very different. So you don't have to have the same. You're not going to have the same show, the same content, if you invite different people on, right? Yeah. And even if you invite the same people on, but you mix up the composition a little bit, the conversation is just going to go in a different direction.
Yeah. It's funny because on winter camping, I don't really want to talk too much about it. You guys both have like hot tents, right?
I do, yeah.
I have a cool tent. I have a 4-season tent.
Oh, okay. Because one guy I know through my wife's work, he's the husband of one of her coworkers. He's been hot tenting. I mean, he's a rural Quebecer, right? So, Martin, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Actually, even Dennis. I mean, rural people are rural. There are so many similarities between rural Quebecers and rural Albertans that neither of them would ever admit to. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? He's been hot tenting since he was a kid,
right?
And he's watched a lot of the YouTubers, like he's watched Joe and all this stuff, and he watches me. Interestingly, he hates it when my daughter's on, and it's like my viewers sort of break down. Like some of them like her more than they like me, which I believe is reasonable because I like her more than I like me.
She's pretty adorable. So.
And some of them don't really like too much father-daughter time, and he's one of the ones who doesn't like too much father-daughter time. But one thing that he said that makes a lot of sense to me, being someone who has only ever winter tented in Canadian Forces tents. He won't buy a tent without either a zip-in floor or like a permanently sewn-in floor. And he says it's all about avoiding that slush. Like, you guys remember that episode, that Joe Robinette video where he stuck up his tent and he couldn't avoid the damn slush. So I think he came out early.
Yeah,
he ended up with a hole that was about 2.5 feet deep underneath.
Yeah.
Stove. And boards and.
Yeah, and this guy.
There's a way to avoid that, though. I'm surprised he didn't do it.
No, really?
Yeah. So you want me to explain this, or
sure, go for it.
Yeah,
I'm worried I'm cutting you off in the middle of the story. So.
Well, no, it's just he was saying that when he was growing up, and even today, if it doesn't have a zip-in floor, he ain't interested. Just because it's the easiest way to avoid all that crap. You put a board under your what's the word in English? Your stove, right? To keep it, from, and that it's just, even if you get some melting underneath, but it makes like a barrier. But even if you do get melting, you don't get everything soaked,
Yeah.
But, yeah, Martin, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay, so when I camp on snow.
Yeah.
So what I do is before I lay down my tent, you have to tamp down the snow. So you got to go with your snowshoes and tamp down your snow and drag your sled around on it and tamp on it.
Yeah.
And then you don't put up your tent. You just let that snow sinter up. So it's kind of, sintering is the process whereby snow kind of firms up and locks up. You break all the crystals, and then they melt a little bit, and then they firm up again.
Hard. Yeah.
And they work apart. Yeah, that's why the crap that the plow leaves at the end of your driveway is so hard to shovel compared to the stuff in the middle of the driveway. It's the agitation, right? And it causes the snow to sinter up. So you got to stir up the snow and tamp it down, and then it firms up. So then you got to go and you got to find some wood and process some wood, and then go back and set up your stove, set up your tent. Once you set up your tent, then you can bring your stove into it. Now, so the way it works though is your tent is, let's say it's an A-frame tent, which is what I've got. Okay, so it's a traditional A-frame tent. You walk in the door, and immediately on your left is where the stove is going to be.
Yeah.
But what I do is I shovel out a pit just inside the door. So when I walk into my tent, I step down into a pit about 1.5 feet or 2 feet deep. Like drop right down. Okay, and that's so that when I've excavated this little square hole that I can stand in, I can then sit opposite my stove and feed my stove and play with it and stuff like that. Okay, but I don't want that stove to tumble into the hole. I got to make sure that snow is not going to crumble. So you just take some of the wood that you've processed and you put it underneath, and you create a floor, just like when you're creating a fire on wet ground. Right, you create a base. You do the same thing with that. Okay, and your stove is elevated, right? It's on legs, right?
Yeah.
It's on fold-out legs, or usually, or something like that, right? So you just, and so the whole point is to put something there. And what some people do is they'll take, I don't have it with me right here, but my stove's over there. The other thing I was going to show you, it's not here, but you use something as a reflector. So you can just go to the dollar store, and you know those big aluminum, cheap, flimsy aluminum cookie sheets that they sell there for $1 or $1.50.
Yep.
You can throw that underneath, and they'll reflect an enormous amount of heat. So what I do is I'll put down some wood, okay, as some skids, and that gets the whole stove up off of the snow. And then I put a little pan under there, and it reflects most of the heat. Okay. And then I can, if I have some slightly damp wood, I can rest it on that pan under the stove. And that all acts as a thermal mass that continues to heat the tent when the stove's out, and it dries that wood out. And it never sinks. I've never had my stove sink at all.
So you don't need the sew-in or zip-in floor.
I don't want I don't want that floor. It's going to get filthy in there from going in and out. Snow gets on it, then it's going to melt on it. Then I'm going to have puddles in there. So I don't want that. What I want is a snow-covered floor. So I want to come in and drop down into that pit. I can stand in there, and I keep my boots in there. I take my boots off in there, and then I have little down booties that I wear in the tent, in the hot tent. And so I'm not tracking snow in. Like
Interesting.
And so you keep everything clean that way. So that's why I would do it. So I don't see any purpose for the floor. Plus, it's a lot of excess weight. It's got to be packed up.
A lot of excess weight, yeah.
If anything's going to be wet, it's going to be that.
Me too, because I never slept in a hot tent.
What's that, Dennis?
I said this is very informative to me too, because I've never used a hot tent before, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering about that. I wanted to bring that up in last night's show: is floor or no floor, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I honestly don't see the advantage of a floor.
Mr. Martin, I may actually add you into my winter camping episode then, if you don't mind, because I have 2 guys set up for it. But what you just said is real interesting to me, because it. I just want to say one thing before we go any further. We got a few new people listening in. Whoever's just joined us, just drop a hi down in the comments down on the side here, and because I want to know who's hanging with us. But yeah, Martin, what you just said is very interesting, because that never occurred to me. Because to me, the whole winter camping thing it's all theory to me, because I haven't been since, again, Royal Canadian Air Cadets, and we used those military tents, right? We didn't have a stove inside. It was just floor, right? Because it was a built-in floor. Where the hell's my camera? Built-in floor, wall, tent, sleeping bag. And it's hilarious because I just remembered one year. Okay, we had. Were either of you guys cadets?
No.
Okay, the rank system echoes the Canadian Forces rank system in a lot of ways, right? You start with LAC, which the Royal Canadian Air Force isn't back to using, right? Then there's a corporal, sergeant, flight sergeant, then 2 warrant officers, right? The second class, first class. First class is the squadron commander, the cadet commander, and then there's actual Air Force officers above you. And our deputy squadron commander, our WO second class, was a bit of a ditz. I really liked her a lot. She lived at the next street over from me. Very nice girl, kind of fabulous looking in a lot of ways, but not the smartest. And they always taught us that, in the winter when you're using these military, the inner bag, the outer bag, strip down to your undies, right? Because you don't want the sweat, like you don't want to get into your bag in the winter all dressed up and you have sweat, sort of freezing next to your skin and everything. I mean, this is 1980s era philosophy. I don't even, because I haven't winter camped in so long. I don't know if that's still the case, but I do remember her being pulled out by a helicopter, headed to the hospital with hypothermia because she just didn't. Because back then, we all stripped down to our undies, got into the bag, got into the other bag, and we were, did it up and snug as a bug, right? Hey, Old Boy Adventures, how's it going? Nice to see you. So I don't know if that's still the philosophy, but I remember that she put every damn thing on, like her combats, her undies, her just, and of course she damn froze.
Yeah, well, I have fairly firm opinions on how to dress in winter to stay dry, and maybe we'll save that for
Okay.
if you want to. But if anyone's interested in what I'm describing about how I set up my stove, I have one video that shows my hot tent setup, and it's the first time I took it out. I went on a solo winter camping trip when, I don't know, 3 years ago or something like that. It was the first. I had just gotten the tent. I bought it all used, the tent, the stove, and all that.
Oh, you bought it used?
Oh, it's a funny story. A friend of mine contacted me and said, "Hey, Martin, I know that you've been wanting a hot tent and stove for years now, and you've been reading up on it, stuff like that. There's somebody selling an entire set, the sleds, the poles, the harnesses, the stove, the tent, everything on Kijiji."
Holy shit!
And I went, "Really?" So I looked, and sure enough, there was somebody in practically in Elliott Lake, way past Sudbury, selling it. And so I called the number, and actually I wrote to the person with my number, and he called back, and we started talking, and he said, "I think I know you." And I went, "Really?" And he says, "Yeah, you have a YouTube channel, right?" And in my email I said I signed it Martin, right? So he says, "Yeah, I know your channel." And so it turns out he's been a subscriber of mine for a long time and watched my content. So he gave me a deal on this thing.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, and this guy.
Wow, that doesn't suck.
And this guy, and he gave me a nice deal on it. And I drove 5 hours to go get all of this stuff.
Wow.
And he treated me to dinner. He set up the tent. He showed me how to use the stove. The whole thing. It was the most generous thing. I really hope that I have occasion to run into that gentleman again, because he was so nice. He was so cordial. He was no longer using it. And what's that?
Is he still a sub?
I presume so. Yeah. And I don't want to give out his name just in case he wouldn't want me to name him. So I'm not going to. Yeah, but he was a participant on a forum called the Winter Trekking Forum.
Okay.
And wintertrekking.com is an excellent resource for anyone who's interested in winter camping, and it's a terrific forum. Winter Trekking, wintertrekking.com. Anyway, so that's how I came to have my hot tent set up. I bought it all from him all at once. It was all used, and it was all in good condition, and he showed me how to set it up, and I was like so grateful. And
for the video now, do you know what it was called?
Yeah, so the video is called Solo Winter Camping in a Hot Tent. It's got about 20,000 subs. It was February 2017, so just over 2 years ago.
Solo Winter Camping in a Hot Tent. Okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that to whoever's watching right now.
Yeah.
He didn't happen to have like an extra set that he wanted to sell too, did he?
He didn't have. Well, he didn't have a sister I could marry, did he?
Yeah. It's really funny. So many people were like just shot through with envy that I got this entire setup all at once. So I could not wait to get to use it. Unfortunately, I'm recovering from a terrible back injury, so I'm not able to do as much winter camping with it as I wanted to. But anyway, the first time I got out with this gear, I set it up and I recorded some video. My wife was out of town, so I recorded this little video. Anyway, the reason I mention it is because if anyone wants to see the setup that I'm talking about, what the hot tent looks like and the stove and how I have wood underneath it and how I dry my wood around it and stuff like that, there's some scenes where you'll see that. And I don't remember how long.
I just put the link down below for anyone who's watching who might be interested to take a look.
I think it's like an 11-minute video, and it's at about almost the 8-minute mark, like the 7:54 mark. There's like a good still shot there.
Because I'm dying to get here's sort of, you guys can rip this to shreds if you want. Here's my philosophy for where I kind of want to be with my stuff by my 50th birthday. I want to have a hot tent. Okay, I would preferably like to have used it a couple of times, which should go without saying, except I've had this bloody hammock for 3 years and I haven't used it yet.
Well, a hot tent you can use in your backyard. No, but the hot tent is great.
Yeah,
you will use that in your backyard with your kids and your wife and all that, and they will love it. And that's how you might get them out in the bush with it.
Oh, start them off in the backyard.
Yeah. Well, you should. You should always start winter camping in your backyard to discover, oh, my sleeping system is not adequate. I don't have the right clothes, or stuff like that.
Yeah, and I definitely, I see that the tent as the beginning of a certain journey. For instance, I don't want to steal too much thunder from my winter camping episode, but like my best sleeping bag right now is -4 bag.
Oh yeah, that won't do.
So but like someone I know has a $1,000 like deep cold bag. I'm not gonna have $1,000 to spend on a bag anytime soon, so I have to find maybe an army surplus kind of solution or something.
Yeah, well, there's something. Let me suggest a resource that might help you with the resource that I have used a number of times. Are you familiar with a site called The Last Hunt?
Yes.
Okay, so The Last Hunt is a site that sells a lot of camping and outdoor gear. It's mostly clothing, footwear, sunglasses, jackets and stuff like that. But they have like real great brands: North Face, Fjallraven.
Yeah, and I haven't thought about them. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I bought my wife's winter sleeping pad, the Winter Light X-Pad down mat. It's an amazing winter mattress. I got it there for like half price. She's got a Fjallraven down pack jacket. It's the down jacket, like a full woman's down jacket that packs down to nothing, made out of down by Fjallraven. Got that for 55% off.
Wow.
And I bought her a winter sleeping bag. I can't remember. It's by Marmot. I forget the model, the Swim or something like that. And I got that for some.
Is a Marmot. Marmot.
Right, Marmot. Yeah. So there's some really good quality gear that you can get there. And I have to act fast when you see it though, because usually it's like 20% off or something like that, but sometimes it's like 50% off. It goes fast, so you got to be quick when you see it, right?
It's like when
they're remaindered and clearance items. Stores go out of business and stuff like that, and they got to get rid of the stock or something like that. Or there's a new line coming out, so they're getting rid of all of the last year's model of shoes because they're changing the stuff like that. It's all perfectly
like a liquidation type of thing.
Yeah, it's a liquidation site. Yeah.
Maybe that's where I should go to find, because as you guys likely know, I'm still looking for an under quilt or a sleeping pad to go in my Hennessy hammock.
That's a bit specialty for The Last Hunt, like under quilts and stuff like that.
But like
I don't think you'd find that, but a sleeping bag you will find there. I've seen lots of sleeping bags there, and I bought one for my wife there. In fact, I bought two. Wait a minute, I bought 2 sleeping bags from The Last Hunt. Am I wrong? No, just one. Forget. The other thing was the winter pad. Never mind. But anyway, I bought a lot of gear that way and saved like a fortune, like half the price of the stuff, right? But you got to wait.
This year does get expensive. This year gets really expensive.
Yeah. So, and if you don't have a winter sleeping bag, you can double up sleeping bags. I mean, that's what we all did when we were kids. We had summer sleeping bags, and come winter, a winter sleeping bag was unthinkable. So, you would just, double up your sleeping bags, right? And throw in a wool blanket, and you did what you had to do, right? And that works. It's really heavy and bulky. But if you've got a hot tent, you're not wearing a backpack. You're dragging it on a sled behind you anyway. And if there's two of you, then there's two sleds. So you're having the load. And it's better when you're winter camping to go with two people, because one person breaks the trail on snowshoes and the other person hauls the sled if there's only one sled. If there's two sleds, then whoever has the lighter sled goes first. And when they get tired, then you switch. You leave the sleds. And then the person who's hauling the heavy sled moves forward, pulls the light sled, and the person who's tired goes. And so you do it that way. And if you watch that video of mine, you'll see me. I am by myself, so I'm carrying all the gear by myself. And it's a solo trip, so there's no one to break trail for me. And I'm going right after a freshly fallen powder. There's like a foot of freshly fallen powder. So every step is like lifting my knees up high. It's exhausting. And then I get to a hill. It doesn't look very steep in the video, but it's actually quite steep. And I included the sort of this embarrassing scene of me gasping and struggling practically on hands and knees to haul this thing up this hill. But that's the reality when you go by yourself, right?
Were you using snowshoes?
Oh yeah. Oh, it would be impossible to go without snowshoes.
I'm just checking out that site right now, and it's actually pretty cool. I never heard of that one. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah.
It's funny about that site because the person who told me about it was someone who is okay. This is boring as hell, but it's important to me. I'm on the governing board of my daughter's elementary school, and one of the other members, he was always wearing like Fjallraven and stuff, and he didn't seem that outdoorsy to me. But anyways, I said, "How do you get all this stuff?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, it's this site, thelasthunt.com, man. You got to check it out." Sorry, I'm in Quebec, okay, so I realized I probably should, the last hunt, man, it's good. I'm like, the last, and so I checked it out, and it was really cool. And then I turned off my computer, whatever, and I didn't go back for a few weeks. And then I couldn't bloody remember the name. And so thanks, Martin, because you're just because I remember seeing some really good prices, but it wasn't the time to buy.
Just watch out though. It's a liquidation sale, so like all sales are final. So if you're buying clothing, for instance,
and
or a sleeping bag, it has to be sized for you. Yeah. So if you're buying a sleeping bag, make sure that it's the right size for you. Or a sleeping pad or something like that, or backpacks. Backpacks are kind of tricky. Like, it might be in your size. You might be a medium, and you might be buying a medium, but when you put it on, it's I'm kind of long-waisted or short-waisted, or I'm broader, or I'm heavier, or something, and it won't work. So you got to be careful with that. Maybe it's a good idea to go someplace, try that backpack on, and then.
Funny you say that because 3 or 4 months ago, I purchased at Sale, the outdoor store.
Yeah.
Picked up my Fjallraven pants there. And I went there. I was trying them on, and I found the pair that fit me. I'm like a 36 waist, usually. And I put on the 36 waist, and they just felt a little snug. But they also have a 37-inch waist, right? So they don't go like 2-inch increments.
Yeah.
And I tried them on, and they fit absolutely perfect. Well, after wearing them for the first few times, they do stretch.
Yeah.
I could have gone with a 36-inch, right?
Yeah.
But on a $180 pair of pants, what the hell are you going to do? I just tighten up those extra belt loops. Right?
Yeah.
Pull a little tighter. Or eat a bit more. But I prefer to pull the belt loop a little tighter.
Yeah, don't look at me, dude. Don't eat more. You don't want to be in the position I'm in. I got a doctor's appointment this month, and he's gonna kill me. He's gonna
go low carb. You'll lose that waist just like that.
Low carb, yeah.
Well, yeah, I've been low carb for 3 years now. I'm skinny as a rail because of it.
So, you don't eat a lot of bread and stuff?
I don't eat any bread. I don't eat anything with flour or sugar, or grains of any kind, or any starches. I loved all that stuff. I used to love pasta and rice and mashed potatoes, and I used to live off that stuff, and that stuff is, you have to sort of keep in mind that our ancestors did not know any of that stuff, right? Like we think that bread and flour is sort of natural, but it's in fact an artifact of civilization. And for millions of years, our ancestors knew nothing of that, could not eat those refined carbohydrates, right? That's all processed food. It's as processed as Cheerios, right?
Yeah.
And that's what flour is, right? It requires a civilization to have an agrarian society that can grow that much wheat,
Yeah.
and then harvest it, and then mill it down, and then cook bread, and manage yeast and stuff like that in order to leaven it and stuff like that. So we don't realize that bread is an artifact of civilization, of fairly modern civilization. It's just that it's for us, it's ancient history. But our bodies are prehistoric.
You can't have bread in a hunter-gatherer society.
That's right.
'Cause you can't feel it. You can't grow fields of wheat if you're in a hunter-gatherer society. I get that.
Yeah.
I get,
Yeah. So, and same thing with refined sugar. So I don't have any of that. And, our ancestors probably would have eaten some vegetation. They probably wouldn't have been strict carnivores. But, a potato is this tiny little, largely poisonous thing full of toxins, right? It's a tiny little thing. An apple would have been something the size of a large marble and incredibly tart. We're used to these huge, huge fruits and vegetables that are the product of modern plant husbandry.
Well, look at what corn used to look like when it was, like
it used to be teosinte. It's like that baby corn that you see, that novelty baby corn. That's what corn used to look like, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to that, and it was hard.
Yeah, everything was. Yeah, look at bananas are the poster child for this. I just want to bring your attention to what Old Boy Adventure said, because he's bringing us back to what the hot tent is. I guess the trick is to get a wood stove and keep it stocked through the night. That's been my current goal anyway. Hot tents are what I'm gearing towards. What I find interesting about that, because he's obviously riffing off of our conversation, what I find interesting about that is when I go to hunt, well, I have no access to the hunting camp we used to go to anymore. But my favorite part of the entire trip was snuggling down after a long-ass day in the cold and the smell of the burning wood, and finally being warm and drifting off to sleep. But then at like 4 a.m, it's freezing, and I'm up trying to stuff wood into this freaking stove.
Right.
We
had an interesting conversation about that just yesterday. There was a controversy yesterday. So there are two camps with respect to stoves at night.
Okay.
So there's one camp that says just get up and start the fire, and if you have to get up 3-4 times in the night to keep warm, that's what you do. I am of the other school. The other school says whatever sleep system you bring into the bush, it has to sustain you if you had no tent and no stove, right? Because that could happen. Right?
Yep.
Something could go wrong. Your whole setup could go up in flames or something like that. You could have torrential, unseasonable downpour. And those canvas tents are not very waterproof. They're waterproof for a while, but they're meant to keep out snow. In cold temperatures, they're not really meant to keep out warm rains, right? So anything could happen with your setup. So you have to have a sleep system that will keep you warm if you have no source of heat. So I sleep cold, and that is the traditional way of hot tenting, is you sleep cold. So you make it, that's a traditional way. I didn't invoke the argument from tradition yesterday, because tradition isn't an argument. It's just what people did, but it's not a reason why you ought to follow the tradition. So I didn't want to bring it up yesterday, but it's a traditional way, and that's why I do it, because I learned the traditional way. So that's what I did. And it's kind of like cabin life. People who lived in cabins did not get up in the night and get the fire going, right? They slept cold under piles of blankets, multiple people to a bed or a cot, right? And they kept each other warm that way. So what I do is I have to make sure that I have a sleep system that will keep me warm. So I have to have lots of insulation from below, and I have to have a good sleep system, a good sleeping bag system. Someone in the live chat was asking, it's hard to sleep with your face cold. It's hard to fall asleep when your face is cold, okay? But if you get past that, you will fall asleep and you'll stay asleep. Your cold face won't wake you up. What I do is, you can wear a balaclava if you want, but what I do is I just take my headband that I have with me always on a winter camping trip, and at night I wear a hat, and then I take my headband and I just wear it over my nose like this, right? And so it forms a peak over my nose, so it doesn't block my nose, and so I can breathe out my mouth and out my nose, but my nose and cheeks here and ears are kept warm.
Okay.
And that's fine. And if this part of me is cold, it doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It can be minus 40. And as long as you're in a tent and there's no wind chill, you'll be fine.
Okay.
And I'll often bring my sleeping bag right up over my chin. I don't want my mouth in there because I don't want all my respiration in my sleeping bag because that will condense and get wet.
And
So-
do you use a a mummy style or more of a rectangular?
I use a mummy style, and I use a mummy style just because it is more compact. There's less volume of air that you have to heat up because your sleeping bag is going to be, unless you use a hot water bottle in it, which is what I do, I pre-warm it. It's going to be the same temperature as the inside of your tent.
Yes. So you warm it up with your body.
So yeah, and you have to sacrifice a lot of body heat to warm up your sleeping bag. So a trick is to take an Nalgene bottle full of hot water or something like that, and throw it in your sleeping bag 20 minutes before you go in there. It pre-warms your bag. It helps warm up your sleeping pad a little bit. And when you crawl in, you are not suddenly bleeding out heat to warm up the down in your bag, right? Or maybe it's a synthetic insulator that you use. It doesn't matter what you use.
And by the way, that's a trick that was used like when people lived in castles, right? Because castles would get drafty as hell and everything. And so like the servants would always have, there's like this closed brazier on a long handle that they would,
bed warmers.
warmers. Yeah. So of course, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So,
excuse me, gents. I got to head out here. It's I had a really early day, and I got to get up early again tomorrow.
All right.
So,
all right.
Good job on the stream. Looks like you got the hang of it, Jess. So keep up the good work. And Martin, we'll be in touch, and I'll see you this weekend, man.
We will see you Saturday for sure. Okay. And let's exchange numbers before that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll drop you a PM tomorrow there.
Okay. Terrific.
Okay, have a great night. Have a good night, Jess. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good
night. I love that guy, by the way.
He's such a he's a true gentleman. He's really nice. I don't know. He's got a really soft touch with his live streams. So do you, by the way. Actually, like I'm kind of picky about things that I watch that are live. And I have really been, I don't know if you've noticed, but like ever since we came into contact in Dennis's live stream some weeks ago, I've been watching all of your live streams. I kind of like the cut of your jib. I like the way you talk. You're very candid. You're very forthright, and I like that. And I don't mind seeing your little girl in the videos.
Yeah,
I find her charming. So
she gets really pissed at me when I do a video without her, but like she has a life to live as well. She's got birthday parties and stuff to go to, and I can't. Right. I'm working my ass off to get a video out every Friday morning. So but
anyway, so to answer that gentleman's question in the live chat about how do you keep your face warm, it's not important that you keep your face warm. It's important that you get your face warm enough so that you can fall asleep, but that will not keep you awake, right? You will eventually get tired enough, right? But people are afraid, oh my God, my face is freezing. It's so uncomfortably cold. But when some part of you is cold, that tells your body to turn on the furnace. Yeah. Right? And you will be warmer for letting your face be cold. And this is something I tell people when they want to go winter camping. I tell people, listen, you have to ride the cool edge. Like a lot of people are afraid of winter camping because they live in a heated house. Yeah. They walk out into the cold. Oh, it's really cold. They get into the car. The car is freezing cold. And they drive to the mall, and they get out of the car. It's freezing again. And they go into a heated mall, right? And in between there, they might be wearing a parka and all that, struggling to keep warm. Right? But then they'll drive by some construction site where there's a bunch of guys, and they're not wearing parkas. They got jackets and mitts and gloves, and they're out there in the bitter cold and the wind all day long. How do they survive? Well, it's because their furnace is on, and it's because they've let themselves feel the cold. So it's on analogy with sweating. When you walk out into the sun out of your air-conditioned apartment on a hot day, you'll feel the heat, but you won't sweat immediately, right? Your body has to register, exactly. Your body, it's not your brain, your body has to recognize it's freaking hot. We need to turn off turn on the air conditioning and start sweating here.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with being outdoors. You don't want to wear all your layers and a big heavy parka and all that, because if you are kept insulated that way, your body will not generate as much heat. And so you ride the cool edge. You wear just enough clothes so that you are not warm, but not uncomfortably cold, but cold, just not uncomfortably cold, right? And then the furnace kicks in, and it takes a while. It takes like 20 minutes, but then the furnace kicks in, and that's what happens with your face. So you're lying there, and your face is freezing, and you can see your breath, and it's like, and it's uncomfortably cold. It is really uncomfortably cold, and you think, I can't sleep like this. I'm going to die in my sleep.
Well,
you know,
that's a good point. It's funny because I hadn't really thought of it that way, but it's sort of the inverse of how when I'm sleeping in my heated house, I always have to have like a leg or a foot outside of the blankets, sort of to temperature
regulate.
Regulate, yeah, you know.
Yep.
But it also feeds into this question that Dr. Sharp just asked. What temperature differential does a stove make in your winter tents?
Oh, okay. Well, if you watch my video, you'll get a sense of it. You'll see that I'm in my underwear. I'm wearing just my base layer.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that video, I'm wearing a base layer, and I'm wearing boots, and I'm wearing a wool shirt and a wool base layer on my under my shirt, and a wool jacket, and scarves, and hats, and mitts, gloves, and all of that stuff. I'm fully dressed. Right? When I'm in the hot tent, I am right down to my base layer.
Because it can get like 25 degrees in there, can't it?
Well, I mean, if I wasn't going to record myself and I didn't feel quite so modest, you would have seen that I got right down to just my underwear, bare legs, bare chest.
Yeah.
It can get as hot in there as you want, right? And those stoves generate plenty of heat because it's a small space, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, we're used to like, you buy a space heater and you go, oh, that doesn't heating much. That's because you're in a room that's like 10 by 12 and an 8-foot ceiling. I'm in a room that's 8 by 10, has a 7-foot ceiling, and it's a peak roof like that. So the actual airspace that has to be heated is very, very small.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're not far from that heat source ever, right? You're really right close to it.
You never get far enough to get, like, there's no, I don't want to say shelter from the heat, but there's kind of no shelter from the heat.
Yeah, there's no buffer, right?
Can't get away from it.
You can't get away from it. And you have to have it fairly hot if you want to dry things. Like, people have these ideas, oh, if my clothes get wet, I'll build a fire outside.
No, you won't.
You'll build a fire outside, and 5 hours later, your hat and mitts are still drying, right? But in a hot tent, it's completely different. That heat builds up, it's trapped in there. Moisture gets driven out through the fabric itself. There's also vents in the corners, but really it's permeable, right? It's gas permeable. So
there's also the fact that, unlike with an open fire, you've got a metal thing around the fire with a stove, right? And that heat, that acts like as a furnace.
It's a thermal mass, yeah.
Yeah, whereas, I mean, with an open fire, you waste a lot of the heat.
Well, it literally is you when you have an open fire, that heat is not trapped, it's not contained. It just rises straight up in a column, and a lot of it just literally is radiation. Right? It's just radiation outward in every direction, and then the hot air goes straight up. And that hot air is not trapped. In a stove, the heat is contained in the stove. The metal itself gets hot, serves as a thermal mass, and the volume of air in the tent is trapped, contained by the tent. So it gets really hot. It gets sweaty hot if you want it to. So I'll crank it up really hot at first because I want everything to dry. I want my scarf to dry because you get sweaty around there. I want my outer layers to dry if they're wet. I want my mitts to dry, especially my work gloves to dry, especially. And most importantly, I want my boot liners, the felt liners in my boots.
Mm-hmm.
You don't buy hiking boots that don't have liners; those are junk. You'll get them wet, and you'll be hard pressed to dry them. So you get the old skidoo boots, the old pack boots that have the felt liners, and you have a spare set of liners to get into. So one set of liners is drying, and then you can wear dry liners that you brought along as spares. So and everything will dry really, really quickly up at the peak if you're hanging your stuff near the peak, because that's where the hottest air is.
Yeah.
And then you let the stove kind of tick down. And then at night, when I'm ready to go to sleep, I don't feed the fire anymore. At some point, I just call it. I just say, okay, I've boiled water. I've got water in a thermos, so it won't be frozen in the morning.
Yeah.
Because I'm letting the stove go out. It's going to go below zero. And then I have a hot water bottle in my sleeping bag to keep me warm, and how much I can drink. And I let the stove tick down, but I make sure that I have everything I need to start the fire right next to the fire, right next to the stove, so that in the morning I can just unzip and with one arm open that stove door and load up the stove and strike a match or use a lighter. And you don't use a butane lighter because they don't work in winter unless they're like close to your body heat.
Yeah.
If you just leave a butane lighter out in the cold, it simply will not light. And I light the stove from inside my sleeping bag with just one arm that's out there in the cold. And then I crawl back to my sleeping bag, and in 15 minutes, it's too hot in the sleeping bag to get out, and I'm good. And meanwhile, my water for my coffee is warmed up. You know.
Now, do you find that does the fire go all the way out to the point where you have to relight it massively, or are there still going to be embers there?
No, because the stoves don't hold enough fuel, and you don't want to build a fire so hot in there that the stovepipe glows red, right? Like you can start a fire that way.
Yeah.
And that's another sort of, there's a safety concern. Another reason, a practical consideration for letting your stove go out at night is you don't want an ember traveling out that pipe and landing on your tent, right, or getting blown back. You don't want, as the fire goes out, you don't want a backdraft coming back in and blowing all that smoke and all those dangerous fumes back out of the stove into your tent and gassing you.
Yep.
You don't want carbon monoxide poisoning. You don't want your stove. You don't want a creosote fire, which can happen in your pipe. Creosote builds up if you're burning a lot of green wood, which sometimes happens. Sometimes you just don't. You're in a spot where there just isn't a lot of dry wood, so you're burning some green wood or a lot of resinous wood, and so you're building up a lot of creosote. If you get a creosote fire in your pipe, that'll burn down your tent.
Yeah.
So, just from a safety standpoint, for those three reasons, I like to let the thing go out.
Okay.
And so it goes out, and so in the morning it's cold. So if you have a cup of water sitting on the stove in the morning, solid ice all the way down to the bottom. And depending on how cold it gets at night, obviously, right?
I just want to draw everyone's attention to wood pigeons. I'm the guy that goes winter camping, but at the same time, I wore long johns in Hawaii and Mexico. But actually, here's something by Dr. Sharp. Do you sleep with I think that's clothes inside your bag?
Yeah.
I was taught not to sleep with your clothes inside your bag. When I was in cadets, we stripped down to our undies, got into, we had those military 2-layer bags and stuff.
Yep.
But I'm assuming that philosophy hasn't changed since the 80s.
Yeah, that's a controversy. People are of two minds on that. I've tried both ways. I honestly have not noticed a great difference.
Really?
I haven't noticed a great difference. Now I know that the reasoning, the theory is that since you have to heat up your sleeping bag with your body heat, or like a water bottle or something like that. But the point is, it is throughout the night. It is your body heat that is heating up the inside of that sleeping bag, and the insulation prevents your heat from bleeding all the way out, right?
Yeah.
So your sleeping bag is just supposed to be a heat trap, and it has to permit enough heat to escape so that moisture escapes the bag. Okay, which is why you don't.
So do you use a liner then?
No, but there's nothing wrong with the liner.
Okay.
That just keeps the inside of your bag clean, because your liner is going to be silk or.
Yeah, because I'm gonna buy 3 liners this year because none of us have them, and I now have 3 bags because I just did a review of one. Obviously, you watch everything I make, but I recently did a.
Yeah, you did a sleeping bag review. Yeah, I saw it.
And I keep thinking, because when we used military bags, we always had a liner in, right? Because if you didn't, God knows who the hell slept in that bag 20 years ago, kind of thing. And there are 2 kinds of liners at Mountain Equipment Co-op. There's the sort of I think it's cotton, which you can afford, and then there's silk, which you kind of can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not
there's
sure.
fleece, and there's fleece too. People use fleece.
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
fleece too, but I get sweaty real fast. You know.
Me too. I find fleece too sweaty.
Yeah.
So I have a fleece liner and I don't use it. I use it as an overbag in summer when we're getting into cool autumn and nighttime temperatures. But that's I don't wear it inside. So so the idea is that since your sleeping bag is a heat trap, if you're naked, your body is going to be able to bleed its heat into that space more quickly and heat up the bag more quickly than if you're clothed. If you're clothed and you're wearing long underwear, then the long underwear is keeping the heat close to your body, and you are insulating yourself against the inside of your sleeping bag, and so your sleeping bag isn't heating up as quickly. But then you're losing heat less quickly. So it seems to me
it's a zero-sum game then.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's kind of a net of zero. It's not a gain or a loss. So I think that's why I haven't noticed a difference. And I've tried both ways, and it so happens I feel psychologically warmer if I get into a pair of dry underwear, long underwear. So I have a kind of synthetic underwear that I wear that are only for sleeping. And my merino wools are for sweating and exerting myself in throughout the day. But at night, I wear, kind of polyester thing. And they're very warm, they're very comfortable, and they're dry. And another thing you can do, actually, people don't know this, there's something called night drying. A lot of people don't know this. I do this when I igloo camp. So I camp in snow shelters, I build igloos.
Okay.
And when you're in an igloo, there's no heat source. There's no stove, obviously, right? So how do you dry your gear? How do you dry your spare liners? How do you dry your wet socks and stuff like that, or your damp socks, not wet socks? Well, there's a technique called night drying. So what you do is you get into your sleeping bag at night, it's preferably pre-warmed with a water bottle, and you wear your night clothes if you're going to wear night clothes, or you sleep naked. But you take your very, very slightly damp socks and damp underwear and damp long underwear and your damp boot liners, and you put them in the sleeping bag with you. And your body heat forces that moisture out, right? Because all sleeping bags have to be gas permeable. They have to prevent. That's why there's no such thing as a waterproof sleeping bag. Waterproof sleeping bag is a garbage bag. Yeah. So you can night dry your gear, your damp clothes and stuff like that in your sleeping. You wake up in the morning and you go, how about that? This clothes is all dry. It went in here damp and it's dry. My body heat dried it up. I'm the clothing dryer, right? Your body is the clothing dryer, right? I'm the tumble dryer.
Which, by the way, dovetails beautifully with, see that question from Dr. Sharp?
Yeah.
Clarifying his earlier question by saying, I don't mean wearing your stuff, I mean having it in your bag.
Yes. And that has the advantage that if you need to get in, if that's the clothes you need to be in the morning, it's warm and dry.
Yeah.
Because believe me, getting into cold clothes in the morning,
It's terrible.
it's awful. It's like putting on a wet bathing suit, only much, much worse.
Yep, I know it, man.
Yeah. So so that's the night drying thing is something I still do even with the hot tent out of habit. It's completely unnecessary because with a hot tent you can dry your clothes. You just hang it up on the line across the top of the ridge.
Yeah.
But I still like to have warm clothes to crawl into. Now, there's another reason why I haven't mentioned why I let the stove go out, though. This is the most important reason, and that is I want to frickin' sleep.
Yeah.
And if you get up, I mean, it's okay if you're going to get up to pee. You can fall back asleep in no time. But when you get up and you have to put on the headlamp and fiddle with matches and load up the stove and wait for it to catch before you can close the door and adjust the damper and, look, now you're awake. You're awake, right? It's like you got up and took a walk around the block and then decided to go back to bed. Right? You'll fall back asleep. Yeah. And if you do that 3 times a night, right, or even twice a night, your sleep is shot, right? So I like to sleep 8 to 10 hours solid, except to get up to pee, and then I go right back to sleep. So, and I have a pee bottle that I pee in, so I don't have to go outside to pee. I just pee in the bottle, and then because I have a snow floor, I just go to a corner, and I just pour the hot pee into the snow, and it drills down like a laser right down to the ground. And that's it.
Yeah. Wood Pigeon George says he uses his wool blanket for the bottom of the bag and sometimes a fleece for the top of the sleeping bag. But like he says, on the inside, that is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that would work really well. Having the wool on the bottom is especially good because wool is a really good insulator.
Yeah.
It doesn't compress down as much as fleece does, so it like give you some loft and keep you off that cold ground better than the fleece.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm just answering a note from Zach Fudge here. His girlfriend seems to have prevented him from eating the Pringles.
Someone wrote, Dr. Sharp wrote, +1 on the pee bottle. Yes.
Oh yeah, you know what? You know where I knew about it? Where I start again? What the hell's going on here, guys? Where I learned about a pee bottle was hunting, because you can't just step out of the blind and into the bush, right?
Yeah.
What I also learned, which you don't need to do when you're not hunting, is put a paper towel in the bottom of the bottle so that you're not making that sound.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about when you're not hunting, but when you're hunting, you really, really do.
Yeah.
That's also where I learned about using methyl hydrate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you remember those old style tobacco tins?
Yeah.
Where you screw it on?
Yeah.
Put a roll of toilet paper in there.
Okay.
Put a roll of bog roll in there, and then fill it with methyl hydrate and light it. And like I'm saying, if you're sitting in a deer blind, right?
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
It's nice and warm, but it makes no scent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes no sound.
And it makes no sound.
Yeah. That's why I'm a fan of the Trangia stove, actually, is it's odorless.
Yeah.
It doesn't give off a lot of fumes that are noxious, and it's blessedly quiet.
Yeah.
So I cook when I camp in an igloo. I use a Trangia stove because I can cook right in my shelter, so I don't have to go out in that crappy weather outside and all that wind. I can stay in my igloo, which is really quite warm.
Yeah, and you're not creating enough. Like you're not gassing yourself to death because it's a small freaking stove.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, burning out. I mean, it'd be very hard to poison yourself off the fumes of an alcohol stove. Right? I mean, if you were burning it for hours, you didn't have a vent hole or something, you'd be in trouble. Right?
Yeah,
it's just not that. Yeah. Do you need to get going? By the way, I noticed you're yawning there.
The thing is, it's 2 hours earlier for me than it is for anyone else in this time zone because I was in Las Vegas. But I'm gonna have to get up fairly soon, so maybe let's take it to 12:15.
Sure.
12:07 now. This is a really good convo, so I don't want to cut it short, but I have to be grown up about tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to. I have stuff to do. I have work to do tomorrow too. Work around the house.
Yeah.
My wife's out of town, and I got to get some work done around here, so it doesn't look like a bachelor's been living here.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been on this. God, I think I've mentioned this before. I've been on parental leave for a few months. If we weren't going to lose the house, if I did this, I would be a stay-at-home dad for the long term. I've got a great job. I like my job, but there's a sense of purpose that happens about keeping a baby alive and getting my kid from school before the after school daycare kicks in, and so she's got some time to kick around before between like homework and bed. And man, I would stay home and do the stay at home dad thing like that. But we don't live in that kind of world, It's all mortgages and crap.
Yeah, I was a stay-at-home hubby for a few years. So, I retired in 2005, as did my wife. But, before that, we only ever had it such that one of us was working. We didn't both work at the same time. We just agreed that we weren't going to be that couple where we're both working. And we on the weekends we'd come home, we're both exhausted, and then we've got all these chores to do. You got to go to Costco, you got to go do this, got to do that. Yeah. And then your entire weekend is eaten up with errands.
Yeah.
And so we just said, listen, we're just going to live on less. We're just going to be frugal. We're just going to be modest. We're not going to renovate our house. It's just going to look like crap. The furniture's not going to match, and everything is bought secondhand from auctions and a store and Salvation Army and all that. And it all looks like crap. But only one of us works, and so the other takes care of the person who's working. And we did that for years. Mostly I worked, and my wife took care of me. But there were occasions where she worked because she could pull in a bigger income at times. And I was a stay-at-home husband, and we didn't have kids. I had a dog to take care of and a house and her to take care of. And I really quite enjoyed that. And I remember the longest I did was 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed it. I learned to cook and sew, and I was doing volunteer work and stuff like that because it wasn't quite enough. Without kids, there wasn't quite enough to do in a day. If we'd had kids, it would have been different. I might not have loved it quite so much. But
it's funny because the volunteer work, for me, the volunteer work comes built in, right? Governing board at my daughter's school, doing pizza lunch at my daughter's school, this and that. But if you don't have the kids, you got to find something else. Interesting. Yeah. I love what Tenenbaum just said. The rat race. Because you're right. Even though Tenenbaum does a job that I thought I would do for a long, long time, I don't want to blow his stuff on the internet or anything, but I thought I was headed towards academia, maybe teaching. That's always something that I thought I would love to do and everything. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen at this point. But if you're...
That's such a weird, uncanny coincidence. Sounds like we followed similar trajectories here.
Yeah, I just, because I've always had a lot of respect for professors and stuff. But it's interesting how, because the person I used to, I think if you've been listening to a bunch of live streams, you know that I have a podcast that's currently dormant. Mm-hmm. It was a science podcast. I came at it from the layman's point of view, and my partner, well, he's an academic. He is currently at the University of Ottawa or something, but he was getting his PhD at, I don't know, one of the big American ones.
I've never heard the podcast. I've just heard you mention it, I think, twice before.
Yeah, but he was at Harvard, so he's gone hardcore into the academic life. And rat race happens no matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
Like, I've sort of idolized this idea of being a professor, but I know some professors now. And rat race happens in the private sector, the public sector, nonprofit, which is another sector I'd love to be in, for-profit. It's like the rat race just happens.
Yeah, no, it's universal. It's impossible to get away from it unless you get away from it. But it's not in any particular field. It's not in the province of any particular field. And it's funny because I was an aspiring academic, and I really wanted to be a researcher and a professor in humanities, specifically in philosophy. That's where my background was. And the closer I got to the brass ring, through master's and then the PhD program, the closer I got to it, the more I realized it's about grantsmanship, it's about committee meetings, department meetings, and publisher parish, and the less appealing it got. I like the idea of teaching. I used to enjoy teaching undergraduates when I was a grad student. You work as a TA, right? Basically, a slave teacher. But I love that aspect of it, and I loved studying and learning. But the whole administrative side of it, I found repulsive, and it sort of pushed me away. And eventually, I just left. But then I went into the private sector, and I worked as a trainer. I worked in a number of different fields, market research and software training and stuff like that. And because I had good soft skills, I didn't have good technical skills, but I had good soft skills, teaching. Yeah. And so I was always able to, and I was bilingual in Ontario, which helped. So I was able to parlay that into some good work. But there was rat race there too. And then in 2005, my wife and I just said, fuck it. Fuck it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I could swear on your live stream, but yeah, we said, fuck it. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, so F it. And we sold everything, sold our house, sold our car, sold all our belongings, bought a pickup truck and a used Airstream travel trailer. And we traveled around North America, and we lived in that trailer, 8 feet by 30 feet with our dog and our camping gear and our canoe for 4.5 years. And it was the best home we ever had. To this day, it was the best home we ever had. And we loved it. It was incredibly liberating. We saw some amazing things. We did some desert camping while we were out there. We paddled and camped in the Everglades with gators and crocodiles. It was a real adventure. You know, if we had kids, we couldn't have done it though, right? I mean, kids really tie you down. You got to you're either homeschooling them or you're putting them through the school system.
Well, you know, and that's the thing. My kids are going to be school system. You know, I don't feel that I could do the homeschooling system thing properly.
Well, the standards are pretty slack, from what I understand. They're a little stricter in Quebec than in some provinces.
But, yeah, they still have to meet all the government exams, right?
So, right. Yeah. But I mean, invariably, unless I think a person is incompetent, you're obviously not. You're an intelligent man, so I'm sure you would be able to impart at least as good an education as most people do who homeschool. And most kids who are homeschooled, there's exceptions. There's a lot of kids who are homeschooled for religious reasons because the parents want to shelter their children from something, and I don't think those kids get a very good education because those parents are typically especially educated themselves. But most parents who homeschool, their kids fare better when they get to university, right?
Yeah, that's possible. I feel that the biggest thing, because look, my kid's in a public school, okay? You know, when my wife went to private school, she's not enamored. What? She's not enamored with the whole private school thing. My position has always been I'd rather drown my kid in the tub than put her in a private school. But I do feel that where your kid goes to school should not be as important as how plugged in you are with your kid's life, upbringing, like, you know, their education, their general curiosity and stuff. Because my kid does very well in a public school, miraculous. Public schools in Quebec are not bad. Public schools in Ontario are better. Although I'm not sure about this current government you got. I don't want to get political, but
I don't know. I don't have kids in school, so like I'm really
yikes. Ontario used to be sort of the one that we all wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, but the biggest thing is I don't feel that I could socialize my child as well as being surrounded by other kids could.
Well, yeah, I used to think that too. I started reading about. There was a time when my wife and I considered kids and stuff like that, and at some point we made the decision we didn't want to have kids. But prior to that, we were thinking about it, and I was an aspiring educator. I was interested in how to educate our children. We put them through a private school system, public school system, or homeschool them. And so I looked into homeschooling, and then it was in the course of studying up on homeschooling that I realized how weird our schooling system is. Like, we don't realize what we're doing and what an unnatural thing it is. We think that, oh, well, if my kids are not in school, they won't be socialized. Mm-hmm. But the socialization that kids get in school is of a very peculiar sort. It's very modern. It's this weird experiment. And what you do is you take your kid, you take them away from all adults, their parents, family, and the community at large, and you put them in a class with kids of exactly their own age, starting in kindergarten. Then you do it again in grade 1, and grade 2, and all the way through. And so, and this, the fact that kids are always in kids of the exact same age, that same cohort, means that parents and the broader community lose any purchase and influence they have over kids. And that's why kids tend to be. That's why we have this concept of peer pressure. The concept of peer pressure is a product of schooling. It's a completely modern phenomenon. The idea of school peer pressure and the idea of wanting to impress your peers and your school chums having more influence on your values than your parents do. And the idea of a generation gap. The idea of a generation gap did not exist. There was no generation gap in the Middle Ages and antiquity and the Renaissance. It's a product of modern schooling. It's the idea of universal schooling with a grade system, and where kids go through year by year with the same kids. So that the socialization that they get is a kind of anti-socialization. Kids that are homeschooled are more at ease talking to adults. You'll notice that school children and I remember when I was a teenager, I wasn't comfortable talking to old people or even adults. Fair enough. I mean, it was just I didn't know how to relate to them, right? Kids who are homeschooled usually spend a lot more time with adults. They spend plenty of time with kids. People are worried they won't spend time with kids. Of course they do. They have weekends and there are activities and sports and there's all kinds of things where they are going to come into contact with kids. They're just not going to be spending 8 hours at a stretch with these kids year after year after year.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, so that was eye-opening to me, and then I realized, oh, well, maybe the socialization objection isn't as strong as I thought it. Maybe we're mis-socializing our kids, and this explains why kids who are homeschooled report feeling more at ease in the company of adults, and studies have shown that they are, in fact, more socially adept. They do better in job interviews and things like that, and it sort of made sense of all of that to me. So because that was the objection and the concern that I had the most was I want my kids to have the kind of upbringing that I had, right? It's familiar to me and it seems natural that kids should be socialized by kids exactly their own age. But in fact, that's kind of a weird thing, Yeah.
And that's fair enough. Zach brings up something interesting. Now, this is not true in Quebec. In Quebec, most private schools are not religious. Well, no. In Quebec, it is not true that most private schools are religious. We have private Jewish schools, for instance, but private Catholic schools, I guess there are a few. Like I know out west in BC, Catholic schools are all private, but here there are what they call independent schools, and then there are public schools, English school board, French school board, kind of thing.
Yeah. When I brought up religion, I was talking about homeschoolers. Most people who homeschool do it out of religious concern. They don't want their kids learning evolution. They don't want them having a secular education, getting modern sex ed and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I admit that I shy away from the religious approach to anything. I'm not a-religious. I grew up in a religion that was very free faith, shall we say? Mm-hmm. But I don't believe in homeschooling on religious grounds any more than I believe in not vaccinating on religious grounds. I find that if we can come to the entire discussion without a religious thing pushing us, it's a more productive conversation, in my opinion. Yeah,
I've heard a lot of objections to the idea of homeschooling that are motivated by a fear of indoctrinating kids, right? Because so many people who want to homeschool do it because they want their kids to be indoctrinated and they want to shelter them from secular values and instruction and the theory of evolution and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people who object to homeschooling object to it because they think that's what homeschooling is all about. Of course, it's not. There are lots of people, secular people who homeschool, who it's the furthest thing from their minds. They just think that they can do a better job socializing and educating their kids than the public system can or a private system can.
Yeah.
And I've seen bad private schools. One of the jobs that I had, sort of the last job I had before I retired early, was I worked for a company in Ontario that developed software for schools. And it was my job to go to the schools, the secretaries, the principals, the vice principals, the school boards, and show them how to use the software. And it was software for tracking student records and enrollment and marks and attendance and all of that stuff. Yeah. And so I spent a lot of time in schools, and I used to look at the data from these schools, right? And oh my goodness, there are some great private schools and horrible private schools, and there are great public schools and horrible public schools.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and to support what you just said, my daughter is her school is in the English School Board of Montreal, which is not the only English school board in Montreal. It's just sort of the big one. Yeah. And its success rate last year, which is graded on a bunch of things like graduation and blah, blah, blah. Its success rate last year was 92.4%, which is identical to the success rate of the private schools last year.
Hmm.
Now, not all public schools are of the same level, right? I don't want to say that public schools across the board are as good as private schools. Schools are schools. There are good private, there are good public, they're bad on either side as well, as you just said. But it's interesting to back that up with a statistic that I know from being on a governing board, that a lot of people who buy their kids a private school education think that they're automatically getting a better education than the public school would give them. And I wanted to put our kids, well, at that point, the kid into public school, because the existence of public school is the triumph of democracy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's vital to democracy, to have a universal public school system. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that by putting my kid into private school, this is getting really weird for a bushcraft discussion, but I'll just, what ifs, that by putting my kid into a private school, she wouldn't be relevant to that.
Yeah.
To that whole aspect, you know?
Yeah. Well, I just think that I feel like if I were to put my kid in a private school, this is what sort of when I was thinking about, what I would do if I had a kid schooling, I very quickly decided I didn't want my kid to go to a private school, even if I thought the education might be better. And because I just thought I don't want to undermine the ideal of the public school system. It seems to me it's a very noble ideal. It's an important ideal. And if it's only sort of poor parents have the least resources to give to their children, then we're going to end up with the public school system being a ghetto system, right? And that will undermine credibility in that system, and it'll erode confidence and people's willingness to support that system. I mean, that's what you have in the United States, right?
Yeah.
They have real problems with people opting out of the public school system, and consequently, they have the worst teachers are in the public school system, the worst students are in the public school system, the least supportive parents are all in the public school system, and then consequently, when people have to decide if they have enough money to send their kids to private school, if they want to send their kids to private school, they go, yeah, well, our public schools suck. So, and it seems to me that this is one of
the states they do. You have no choice. You want to go to education, you have no choice.
Yeah. So it seems to me that this is one of those self-fulfilling prophecies. If you think that the system's no good and you opt out of it, you almost ensure that it's going to be no good and that people ought to opt out of it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I'm mindful of the time here. We said 12:15 and we've gone past that. So.
I was just looking at it too. I'm going to go to bed so that I'm in good shape for the baby tomorrow.
Okay.
So thanks for hanging out with me until
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for the invite. I had nothing to do this evening, and when I saw you posted on Facebook that you were going to be doing this, I thought, oh, great, that's perfect. That's a lovely way to spend the evening. I didn't expect to come in here and chat. I was just hoping to listen, but thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I'll see everyone next week, I'm hoping.
Okay.
And what I'll do is I'll drop you a private message about panel discussions coming up.
Sure. Anytime.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good night, everyone.